What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing good. We're kicking it off with some tourney action a couple minutes before it starts, but we're just sitting and chilling. I wanted to actually talk about something real quick. Let me actually get out of here. I'll recreate a lobby. Invite everybody back in who needs it. I just wanted to talk about the Seekers and stuff, because the new patch dropped, and they did get a nerf. They got the radius increase on the models, so they're actually bigger. They lost 2 melee attack, and they lost a little bit of AP. They're banned for the new player tournament today, but I have been testing them out, and they're a lot less crazy now. They're still pretty damn strong, though. I think that it might be worth experimenting with Slaanesh in the future with some limits, rather than just a hard ban, because I do think they're at a point where I think they could be allowable in smaller numbers, but, that's kind of why I would like to run a test tournament with them. So I might be running an intermediate tournament with a hard cap of like 2 Seekers and Heart Seekers, because I feel like if they're kept within like reason, and you can't just bring like 4 or 5 or a bazillion Seekers, they'll be a reasonable unit now. Based on the testing that I've done, they still win in some fights where it really isn't particularly reasonable that they're out-trading the units that they're fighting. Like, they still absolutely smack Khorne Minotaurs, which is a little crazy. Like, I know they've got AP, and I know their stats are pretty solid, but just, like, beating a 1350 hard AP unit is kind of crazy, kind of gross. I want to run at least one tournament with them in the future sometime, just to see if they need any more fine-tuning, because I've been noticing that a lot of people are still just outright banning them. I'm all for banning the stuff that really is just straight-up busted, but it's good to open up the field again to see if nerfs actually have kind of leveled the playing field a bit. I'm hoping that it has. Anyways. Let me get the lobby back up. I invited Legatus. I'm gonna have to actually resend this, though. I hope everyone's been doing good today. It's a beautiful day for a tournament. Yeah, one day they'll get unbanned. I think you can unban them now. I think the Hellstriders are definitely a lot less powerful. Those are very, very well balanced now, I think. I did some one-on-one testing with them, and they are still very strong, and I think they'll be very good in numbers. But they win a lot fewer one-on-ones that they used to win now. Which I actually think is going to make a big difference, because their cost efficiency was their biggest issue, and I still think if you get enough of them, they can be uber cost effective for you, but they don't just come out immediately and start value trading against all the mobility right off the bat anymore. So, that's going to be interesting to see. Sorry to hear that, Reaper. You'll do well. You'll do well, I promise. You're going to get it. Alright, guys. Let me go see who else is playing and kicking it off in round 1. Maybe we can find some other folks who can join us in here. As soon as it's actually live, I guess. So we got 40 people in the tournament today, which is a huge turnout. Super exciting. Always love to see the folks showing up for their first, second, third, or even further in. You know, this game takes a lot to learn, so the pacing for getting past the early bumps as a newer player, it takes a different amount of time for everybody. Long time since you played Corn. Who are you playing today, Spotify? You played Lizardmen not that long ago, right? Weren't you playing them in the last tournament? You're doing pretty damn good with them. Lizardmen are a tricky faction. They've got a very stable floor because of stuff like Saurus, and Skinks always being really good cap point. But mastering Lizardmen is no easy feat. There's a lot of factions that they fight very evenly in. And figuring out even matchups is actually kind of hard in a way, because typically those matchups come down to execution more than it does just having like raw builds that can just totally dominate your opponent. I think that's actually where the make or break kind of stuff is for a lot of players. So if you can get up to a point with your main faction where you're winning even matchups on a regular basis, you can go into more difficult matchups and have a pretty good time. Just like out measuring your opponent in a way with good value and solid fundamentals, and playing those trickier matchups where your opponent has just as much stuff that works well against you as the other way around, is always going to keep you on your toes. We're actually going to go join somebody. Oh, whoops. I don't want to actually join that way, though. I just want to spectate. Alright, there we go. Never mind. Legatus is answered, so we're gonna hold here for Legat. Because I want to see some Norska action, for sure. I sent another invite, though. Oh my god. Okay. Give me a moment while I fumble around. Getting into the tournaments is always the most hectic for me. Slick. Oh, are you back? So you're back to Corn? I mean, I do recommend branching out, even if your main faction is who you just prefer to play on a regular basis. Branching out and trying other stuff on occasion can expand your knowledge base at the very least. And sometimes just getting a break from leaning back on the same units over and over and over again can kind of stretch, just kind of like stretch your brain out a little bit, give it a good little flex, and then you can circle back and you'll have a little bit more of a solid grasp on how you can like utilize your go-to units as efficiently as possible. Is this significantly different from campaign battles? Yes and no. If you have a good, solid, fundamental grasp of campaign, and just fighting against the AI, you can do pretty well against other people in multiplayer tournaments. The big difference between campaign and multiplayer is just that the armies are going to be totally different. In campaign, you can recruit as much of anything as you want. In multiplayer, you're a lot more restricted, and you're bringing builds that are maybe a little bit more variety heavy. Whereas in campaign, you want to like just prioritize like crap loads of missiles and using your like single entities to draw aggro from the AI and then punishing based off of that. In multiplayer, that's going to happen a lot less. It's a pretty minor adjustment in my opinion. Once you figure it out, it's no big deal. Yeah, and that's a really good point, Beaver. The biggest hill to climb is understanding maps. Maps and terrain in multiplayer are crucial, like super huge in terms of what they provide for folks. Hold on, Leggett is about to get in here. What? Who's his opponent? Brackets up, right? Slick. Oh, and it's Spider. Hell yes. Spider is probably playing Dowie, I would guess. Let me drag him in here. For those of you who don't play a lot of multiplayer, I'm actually gonna I'm gonna drop a very useful tool for you to look over. Let me pull it up. Give me a sec, guys. I'm gonna go grab the map Google file. It's not here. Okay. I'd actually find it somewhere in one of these tournament things. I need to keep it in a. I need to keep it the link for it. Here it is. It's gonna work. Yeah, this is the Google Docs spreadsheet that you can look at that shows all of the multiplayer maps for Domination Mode from the community patch. You know, from the Community Workshop mod that we've all been using for the last, like, year now. And both of our players are here. That's awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and, I thought I switched the map. What the hell? Okay, there we go. We'll ready up, and they'll pick their army, and we'll get into it as soon as they're prepared. Anyways, back to the little Google spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has pictures of all of the maps. A lot of them have short descriptions. I'm still working on filling them out. It's been a few days since I've been working on that. I definitely would like to get into it. I just keep getting caught up with all my other work that I got going on, which is very annoying. But it is what it is. Anyways, check it out. Look over the maps. It shows the spawn zones, the reinforcement points, the vanguard deployments as well, like how far forward you can deploy your units. It's pretty awesome. Big shout outs to Tom for actually putting in the work to do all that, because it takes a long time to make things like this. Static, I do really bad on your last couple of streams. What do you mean? Oh, okay. I haven't noticed anything too bad. Is anybody else seeing anything crazy on my streams? Because I haven't noticed a problem. Give me a sec. Let me go to my settings. Oh, that would be my fan. I'm sorry. That's just something you're gonna have to live with for a while. It's hot as balls here. I would literally die without it. It's like 90 degrees here, and there's no AC in this house. Because I live in Michigan, so the central AC is non-existent. One day I'll get a fancy microphone and we can cover it all up. Yeah, man, it's just one of those summers. Every day is an absolute steamer. No, it's not too humid here. That's why I love it. I'm from Alabama, which is like literally 80% humidity every day during the summer. Oh my god, I do not miss the deep south weather. Christ. Sock over it? I mean, sure, I can try sock. I'd rather not mess with it right now. We'll get around to it. I'll figure out some tricks. I'll do some hot testing. Thank you for letting me know, though. I do really appreciate the tips. If anybody else has anything that I can try out, you know, in between the streams, I'll do it. I just don't want to mess with it right now, because at least people can hear me. Who's playing Babatunde? If Baba is waiting on you, by the way. Check your Discord messages, because apparently he's waiting on you, and they know that you're watching the stream here. So go find them. Reaper, go play with Baba real quick. It sounds dumb, but it can work. It doesn't sound dumb at all, dude. People come up with all kinds of crazy cool tricks for stuff. It's only dumb if it doesn't work. Slick. Alright, so we got Legatus rocking up in here with the Norskans. I want to check out the Chaos Dowie army. They're always pretty varied. They can do some pretty fun stuff. But it looks like a pretty traditional line here. Some Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders. Always a very strong unit, especially against Norska with all the fire damage. Wow, what the hell is this? Double Pharaoh Manticore in the sky. Metal Caster with Final Transmutation and Searing Doom. Miststalkers rocking up in here with the melee defense. Pretty solid melee attack for a Famir. Famir just don't really have very high melee attack stats, but the Miststalkers are a little bit stronger than the other variants, and they do get a good bonus versus infantry. With the Armor Sundering, they should be able to beat up on the Chaos Dowie Warriors. With the Marauder frontline doesn't really need it. They're all great weapons. Got the Beast of Tashnar and some throwing axes out here with the Norskan Ice Wolves. I'm very curious if the Pharaoh Manticores are going to be able to do anything. Are we comboing it with... Yeah, Hunter of Champions is here. And Wolfric is on foot, though, so he's not really going to have a lot of opportunities to use this, necessarily. It's very interesting. Flames of Asgore is going to be the spell choice for the Hashut Sorcerer, which is always a pretty good option. It just punishes blobs so much, man. I mean, Asgore will melt anything that you use it on. Outside of maybe the Miststalkers,
We have a victory point. Keep it from
they'd be able to survive like a direct hit from this, but they do actually still take quite a bit of damage, just because of the weapon strength profile on this. It's just all armor-piercing damage for the most part, so even against monsters' infantry, Flames of Asgore can do some pretty good damage. Usually needs to be overcast to nail stuff like this, though. And I think that it'll still be getting the benefit of their missile resistance as well. So the warriors are just rocking up in here. They're going to try and box the throwing axes out, but they get a great volley off here. God, 600 HP off of your Baltor's character immediately is pretty painful. We do get the hobgoblins poking in a little. Not too much damage right now. Beautiful shot from the demolition rocket. Just dropping fire from above. Huge bonus versus large on this missile, by the way. And you can see how hard it punishes stuff like these Ferromanticores. 800 HP off with one shot. Spider definitely gonna need it, because I don't think double Manticore is gonna work amazingly against these Baltor's characters, but they can probably still do some pretty respectable damage to them. I don't think they can kill them is the big problem. We do get a Rampage immediately. Now the Baltor's character is looking to come kick the Manticore's ass a little bit, it looks like. I'm pulling out at the last second. More shots in the demo rockets, but the attack there from the Feral Manticore, wibbling a little bit too much, and the shot just plows into the dirt. Infernal Guard Fireglave's looking to open up on the Feral Manticore, which is still rampaging. That Feral Rampage lasts so long. 40 seconds is an eternity, man. Units can die within 40 seconds of a fight kicking off, for sure. It's still getting pounded a little bit, but there's a lot of throwing axe fire coming in on the Baltors again. And it's really keeping them quite honest up in the sky right now. Beasts of Tashnar coming up, looking to get the fight against the Hobgoblin Wolf Raider archers, but a couple of spear variants come out, and they do get a really good charge off, but with the Ice Wolves here, maybe the Beasts of Tashnar and the Ice Wolves are able to win this fight. They're very close to breaking. Losing them right now would be absolutely devastating for Norska. They're at -1 leadership right now, but they stiffen up at the last second there. Holding in, and more Ice Wolves come up. Beasts of Tashnar do end up routing. Oh my god. Not like this, come on. Norska just desperately holding back all of the units back here. Like, all of the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders are held off. Got the Infernal Guard Fireglaves up in here, and the Miststalkers are attacking the Iron Demon. Could be a little more aggressive with the infantry right now. Like, your mobility is giving you a lot of time out here to get good trades up at the front, but you're not really getting a whole lot done here, and the Infernal Guard Fireglaves have been a little bit mispositioned. I don't think it's because of any fault of Spider, though. I think that the unit is just having a really hard time getting set up. It seems like every time I look at them, they're obstructed by something. I don't know what that's about, but they finally get a really nice volley off. Pretty hard damage against the Femir. Even though these guys have 50% missile resistance, Infernal Guard Fireglaves still have really good AP values, so they are able to chip them down all the same. Beautiful Flames of Asgore on the Marauder Great Weapons. Not a ton of value, but it's, you know, not nothing for sure. It's going to help the Iron Demon out. It's only going to have to run over a couple more Marauders. And Norska's not really going to have any infantry presence after that. You got a bunch of Femir coming out now. Maybe a little too much invested into the infantry and the big monsters, because the Feral Manticores have been getting absolutely shredded so far. They really have not gotten any kind of value whatsoever. And the Sorcerer Prophet, yeah, he's very beat up, but he's still got 4,700 HP. Beautiful breath attack there. Flying overhead, getting some heals. Just going to be chilling, hanging out. No reason to land down in here and potentially die. Just stay up in the air. Use your cap weight to take these objectives and move around the flanks and try and bully some of these more mobile Norscan units, because Norscan Ice Wolves are really strong, don't get me wrong, but the problem with these guys is they have pretty low leadership, and they have no immunity to terror routes. The Baltor's character flying up over here with some Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders with the melee should be more than enough to peel all of these hounds off of the horse archers, or the wolf archers, I guess. Same function though, right? Beasts of Tashanar getting shot in the back. The Norskan Ice Wolves not really getting a lot of value right now. They do get a pretty big win here against these Wolf Raiders. Pushing them back. We got the Beltor's characters still just kind of flying around, not doing a whole lot. Flames of Asgore goes off. You can see the damage that it does to Monstrous Infantry. Like, decent amount of work, but again, that ranged resistance actually is pretty important against the Flames of Asgore, because it does do 48 all AP projectile damage. The explosive damage isn't being mitigated in any way by the ranged damage, but any amount to resist such a powerful spell will help out pretty tremendously. Great Weapons need to get up into the Cathay here. The Cathay are trying to squeeze through the gap here, and they might be able to escape if they keep motoring. But it looks like they are getting pinned in a little bit now. You got one Great Weapon over here, another here. A lot of damage going down the Miststalkers. You know, they've been pretty inactive so far. They were trying to fight the Iron Demon earlier. They got shot up a little bit. Liggett did a good job of pulling them back, though, and now they're getting into a proper fight that they can actually win in. Chaos Dwarf Warriors getting hammered a little bit here. And all this fighting that's been going down has been on Norska's terms. They've got this objective here. They've got the number 3. Although they are losing it now, it looks like the Wolf Raiders did clean up all of the Ice Wolf back pressure. You can see just hordes and hordes of hounds dead all over the field here. Really nice stuff. It's been fairly even for the Chaos Dwarves, but they have all of their horse archers remaining, who are going to be taking that outside point. There's a lot of time for the Chaos Dowie to get back in this game. They're not that far behind either. There's definitely a few things that they could use out on the field to start to close this out in the late game, and they need to get their Beastmen's character up in the air. Need some infantry. Probably need like one more Bull Centaur. And they need this Deathshriek rocket launcher to maybe to focus in on Wulfric. Like, I know he's not a large target, so the demo rocket's going to be a little less efficient against him, but his HP is still fairly limited on foot. I think with maybe, what? How much ammo does this thing have? It's got 10 ammo. With 10 ammunition, it'll definitely kill Wulfric. Even with just like 7 or 8 shots, it might be able to get him to break. Then chasing him off the field could get the Chaos Dwarves in a position where they can close it out. It's really close, guys. This has been a really well-played game. Neck and neck on the value trades so far. And for every one thing that's going right for one player somewhere, there's another area where the trades are going against them on the other side. The Bull Centaur renders get hit by Searing Doom, and it does pretty good damage. That's why it's such a powerful spell. It's very well suited for killing everything. It does help against the Famir Great Weapons, but the Bull Centaur renders, they have beaten one Great Weapon here. They're probably going to outtrade this other Famir as well. Bull Centaur renders are just a better unit overall. They've got much better melee attack and melee defense. Not by a tremendous amount, but by just enough with the bonus versus large and the weapon strength that they do tend to outtrade Famir. And, you know, not having armor doesn't really matter that much if you're fighting a unit that's a majority AP anyways. So they're just having a whale of a time, getting that last little bit of fire support from the Infernal Guard, who did get 1,600 value already. They've got a decent amount of ammo left. 12 volleys. They could be able to kill some of these Marauder Ice Wolf chariots. Demo shot coming in, but these chariots just a little too quick with the acceleration from the charge attacks. And not able to hammer home. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders just flying around back here. They didn't really pay for themselves, though, with the ranged attacks. They're getting a rear charge here against the Spearmen. Should be able to take them down, but the Beasts of Tashanar are back out and going to be following up that charge. I'm going to start chewing on these dudes for real. Beasts of Tashanar love squishy, low armor units like the Wolf Raiders. And the Orc Laborers also break. Norska retaking the number 3 here. with the middle just totally in flux. I mean, there's no way to determine who's going to be winning this right now. The Cathay Fireborn being up here is a good backbone for the Chaos Dwarves, so they don't have anything to fight on top of. And the Miststalkers and a few Fimmer Great Weapons anchored with Wolfric might be enough to get the Cathay low. The Feral Manticore helping in here would be massive as well. And another Feral Manticore again. Oh, man. Let's see if they do any better this second time around. They were pretty lackluster, those first couple of summons. Beasts of Tashnar need to get back in. Norskan Ice Wolves also can rotate back around. Maybe giving up on that number 3 for a bit. You capped it, leave your opponent to have to retake and just get away from the Iron Demon and the Wolf Raiders and get to the middle or maybe come out to the number 1, because there's also nothing out of the number 1 objective. And the Ice Wolf Chariots did finish off the Infernal Guard Fireglaves. Took a lot of model casualties in the process. Pretty solid value, though. With a decent HP pool remaining on these two models, should be able to clean up any Goblin Laborers, a few of these Chaos Dowie as well. The Death Shriek is only just about paid for itself. It's missing a lot of shots, too. It was really accurate with the first few, and now it's been about 50-50, which is not really ideal for the Chaos Dwarves. So these things cost an arm and a leg. It's a 1,300 gold unit without their Hellbound ability, which they don't have here. It's going to need to hit another couple shots. Misses again. God, dude. Please. Absolutely embarrassing performance from that Death Shriek the last few rounds. Iron Demon rolling through. It does have Hellbound on it, so it is super accurate. Or, not super accurate. Very much got perfect vigor. Very active, I guess I should say. Trying to roll up and through the Chariots, which isn't a terrible use for it. With the charge bonus that the Iron Demon has, it also has got pretty decent melee attack for a single entity Chariot. With the good weapon strength, it can actually hit Ice Wolf Chariots. Chip them down a little. And it does actually cause a terror out here. Bye-bye Ice Wolf Chariots. Feral Manticores getting in here, though. And you do see the Cathay Fireborn having been worn out a decent amount. They are bullying Wolfric a little. I keep forgetting he's on foot, man. Being on foot against Cathay Fireborn is actually pretty scary because these guys have a great bonus versus infantry. They'll get around his 45 melee defense with the increase to their melee attack. The weapon strength, with a majority of it being AP, could pretty quickly shred Wolfric, but Fimmer Great Weapons moving in, looking to save their, you know, Eternal Challenger. Getting in behind not just the Cathay, but also the Iron Demon, and none of these units can push past the Feral Manticores, who are forming a pretty nice roadblock right now. We do get a rear charge, Bull Centaur renders. God, dude, every single time I think that somebody's about to swing like a full shutdown of the other player, we get a good response coming in from the other side. We do get a triple cap from the Chaos Dowie in the clutch here. They're getting pretty close on the tickets for Norska to just be able to anchor it out on 1 or 2. But a late game triple cap here for the Chaos Dowie might just get it to a point where the Norskans aren't going to be able to retake in time. They don't have any infantry on the field. They invested a lot into these flyers, the Feral Manticores, who really just have not done a very good job this game. That's been the big weak link for Legatus this game, unfortunately. Beasts of Tashnar following up, still getting after the Hobgoblins, but really good buffering with the Orc Laborers getting in here. That's how you peel for your ranged units. You can do maybe a little cleaner of a peel. You want to run right through the heart of the unit, instead of like skirting around the edge. You can see some of the hounds able to get around the side here, but a majority of them get stuck up in the Orc Laborers, who are going to get a lot of value killing these hounds. Orc Laborers have pretty decent melee attack and weapon strength for such a cheap unit. They're 250 gold, I believe. They are actually able to cause a rout on the Beasts of Tashnar here, who, for a third summon, they've only gotten 800 value across those 3. They're a 600 gold unit. You've got to get your money's worth out of the Beasts of Tashnar if you're going to be bringing them in so often. Norska and Elves on the field again. This Bealtaur's character has done okay. 2,400 value is on the lower end for the kind of performance that you can get out of these guys. Almost 2,500. He does actually die here, but the Bull Centaur Renders might be trading out against Wulfric in return. There are some Chaos Dowie Warriors to anchor the number 2. I don't think Norska's going to have a chance to close this one out. They keep bringing in all these Fimir, but the Fimir have also been fairly inefficient. This Great Weapon, this is the first time this one's coming back out. It did pretty well, but this other Fimir was on the field twice and did not pay for itself both times. It's just been good, solid pressure on the points in the late game here for the Chaos Dwarves, and a slow loss of momentum for Norska as the outside trades have swung against them pretty badly in the late game. They do finally get a really good jump on some of the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, but it looks like Norska not able to close it out, man. Very, very nicely played by Spida. Legatus is a really good Norskan main. And dealing with all these units is still pretty tricky. Just because Feral Manticores pound for pound are a pretty weak monster with the double team, they can get ridiculous value against more expensive flyers. So, while Spida's Bealtaur's character maybe just about paid for himself at 2,400, almost 25, staying alive for as long as that Bealtaur's Lord did is honestly just as big as putting up big numbers, honestly. The Marauder Horsemen got tremendous value, 1,400 and 1,800 here. I actually think that a few more summons of them and prioritizing them over the Fimir would have done the Norskans a lot more favors. Because they were carrying a lot of the water for the value trades early on, and the second they went off the field, the Chaos Dowie could just move around with impunity with all of these big Iron Demons that could die. The Bealtaur's character got away with a lot in the mid-game until he finally got dragged down there at the end. I think that would probably be the winning ticket in the future. Wulfric did great. 2,100 value. I didn't get to see the Safangs he threw down, but rest assured he probably got some pretty good value on them. The Miststalkers were a little disappointing. Same with the Fimir Great Weapons. I don't know, man. Maybe this is just a really brutal matchup for Norska. I still like Skinwolves in this matchup. They just trade so well into Bull Centaurs and even Cathay Fireborn. I know it sucks to have them get shot by the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, but if you just kind of bum rush the Chaos Dowie, sometimes they're just not equal to the task of holding their ground. Because it does tend to take a little bit of time for Chaos Dowie to get enough tools on the field to defend all of their ranged. If you push back the Hobgoblin Raiders in the early game, kind of like what Legatus did here, that's your opportunity to get on top of the Infernal Guard Fireglaves. If you can do that and kill them before your opponent can get a second one out on the field or do a bunch of damage with the Fireglaves, you do some pretty great stuff. They're doing construction or some shit outside my window as well. That's probably also part of the staticky noise. Hopefully it's a little better now. Would have focused Wulfric at the Rockets. I do think that's a pretty good idea, just because he is on foot. He can't dodge at all. On horseback, you can maybe dodge a few rockets. That demo rocket tracking is actually pretty damn good. It's kind of hard to hit consistently with it sometimes. We saw it missing those damn mana cores just over and over again. Tips for Tomb Kings versus Norska. I'll get there, Smiley. Give me a minute. Feel like I see a lot of Norskan players bringing Famir now. Famir are a lot better. I wouldn't say that they're like a top tier unit or anything, but I definitely love the Miststalkers. I think they're pretty amazing because they cause terror and they have stalk. They're my preference for the Famir, but I have seen Leggett bring the great weapons, and there have been a few games where they've absolutely carried the Norskans to victory. I don't think you want to go overboard on them, though, because they are pretty slow. I think they've got, what, 45 or 46 foot speed, which really isn't that good for monstrous units. That missile resistance is what really sells them. Because in a lot of matchups where the Norskans could just get absolutely wrecked on the early engagements, them being able to resist so much missile damage can get you units on top of enemy missiles, and then with the speed on your reinforcements as Norska, you can follow that up and then completely shut them down and kill them. That's where I think the Famir shine the most, is in those missile-heavy matchups where you just need something that can eat some fire and still get into a combat. But yeah, 45 foot speed is just kind of poor. The Norskan Skinwolves have 75 speed. I know that they're very squishy to Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders and even Fireglaves, obviously, but I still think that they can perform really well in that matchup because Bale Tauruses, Bull Centaurs, Skinwolves, if you get a Skinwolf on top of a Deathshriek rocket somehow, they'll shred that thing in about 10 seconds, no joke. They do nasty damage to the artillery pieces for the Chaos Dwarves. I recommend bringing like 2 of them. Just keep them in reserve and bring them out when you need a like quick anti-large unit that you can support and keep from getting shot. As long as the Skinwolves aren't getting shot at by the Chaos Dowie missiles, which is easier said than done, they'll get you some really nice value, I promise. They were a joke for a long time, but they've just been getting buffed over the course of Warhammer 3 Max. That's why you see them so much more. You're not eliminated, Reaper. Don't worry. It's a Swiss tournament. You get 4 games guaranteed, no problems. You're not iced out. Just because he's on foot doesn't make the demo rocket that much worse. I mean, it does have a huge bonus versus large targets. Where's the cat? There they are. The Deathshriek rocket is definitely better against large targets, but the demo rocket does enough damage that even against foot characters, it'll wear them out pretty fast. It takes, what, 500 HP out? Because you got armor-piercing damage, a little bit of base missile. The explosive and the base explosive should also apply. Yeah, it'll take like 500 HP off of Wulfric at a time. If you just leave it on Wulfric, he's not dodging it. It'll absolutely kill him. And killing Norska's Lord can be pretty awesome. If you kill Wulfric early, you get rid of Seafang, as well as have the leadership penalties being applied. And Norska's got low leadership on a lot of their mobility. That can give you the leg up as the Chaos Dowie that you're looking for. Alright, let me start getting, let's start getting replays. People are sending them to me, so I'm going to start downloading. We're going to do King of the Jungles replay first. We'll start doing everyone else's after that. Skaven versus Khorne is one of the ones we've got here. Really excited to talk about that. You don't see Skaven too terribly often in new player tournaments. A few times we've seen them. Most people struggle with them. We saw one person. I haven't seen them play in any tournament since then. All they did was bring Vermintide with a core of like healing monsters, like Packmasters and Brood Horrors, and just ran over everybody with the Vermintide build. It was absolutely incredible to watch, but that's the last time we saw Skaven. It's going to be interesting to talk about them again. So we got a really great round 1 game. It's always really nice to see. I'm sure we're going to see plenty more to come. I'm not sure if this is a 5-round tournament either. Hold on, let me go, let me check. How many rounds? Oh, it's 4. Okay. Maybe we'll get 5. I mean, it is a huge tournament with 40 people. And that's 40 people who are, like, actually checked in, I think. Oh, no. We've got some people who didn't. So we've got 32 people actually here of the 40 who signed up, which is a really good show out. I mean, that's over, what, 70%, 75%. Let's skip those files. We got everything? That's a duplicate. That's fine. That's fine. How many old replays do I've got? A bazillion old replays. Give me a sec, guys. I'm gonna delete all these old ones that just aren't gonna be working anymore. I got a handful of crazy ones in here. Scrambled Egg freaking beat me in the finals with this single entity Goon Squad build. It absolutely rolled me. I played very poorly into it, to be fair, but you know. Games like this prove that you can do just about anything in domination mode if you're able to execute and you can throw your opponent off enough, because I had no idea what to do for the first, like, 3 minutes of this game, and I got absolutely rolled. Okay, here's KOTJ's game. We've got Coast versus the Kislevites. Let's jump in there and we'll see what's going on. You got it, Reaper. What's going on, Spotify? Challenge is bugging out on you? That's super frustrating. So, wow, that was a great speech. They shall fall, guys. Anyways, Polearm Fleet Admiral, not your normal choice if you're bringing Double Crab. So here's the thing about the Vampire Fleet Admirals. There's two variants. There's the Polearm and the Pistol variant. The Pistol variant gets a ability called Black Periapt, which is a Winds of Magic boosting ability. It not only gives you a crazy recharge rate of 160, but it also gives you WOM reserves. And it's on a pretty nice cooldown, so functionally you get infinite Winds of Magic. I mean, there's a limit to how much you get practically. Because you can only cast it, what, every, like, 90 seconds or so, but it's a lot of extras when you're supporting two big monsters with invos. And the Double Crab is rocking up to the number 2 here. Good positioning from Kislev getting out to the flank. Little Grom gets a beautiful shot off on the Rotting Leviathan. Probably about 200 value, 140. That ain't bad. Chunking into the HP on the Rotting Leviathan, which definitely need to get rid of them. You can't sit back too much and just let that thing just farm your infantry for value. Kislev going to the number 3 with their Horse Archers and being very slow and methodical, pushing up on the number 1. Nice little hero squad. You got Gotrek, or not Gotrek, you got Felix here supporting the Boyar. Gotrek and Felix. It seems kind of a sin that they don't just come as a combo character, like a 2-in-1.
Victory point.
That would be pretty cool, but, you know, it's just one or the other. Usually people are bringing Felix, just because Gotrek is a little mediocre in comparison. The Blood Oath is a really strong heal for heroes and lords. That's usually why you see Felix over his buddy. He does have Helping Hand, which gives melee attack and damage resistance to heroes. Oh, it's not the Boyar, it's the Ataman. Oh, okay. So this guy's got a pistol that does pretty good damage. It's very short range. And he doesn't really do a lot of damage in melee combat because his melee attack is so low. But he is hard to kill by that same token. With 65 melee defense, he's very, very well suited for holding the line. And look at the drive-bys back here. The Horse Archer's going deep to get the damage on the cannon crew. That's really good control from Suga. Look at the cannon getting absolutely rolled over right now. And a lot of the cannon models are being killed by the volleys from the Horse Archers. Wow, that's massive. It's going to give Little Grom all the time in the world to continue to value trade here. Oh, maybe wasting a little bit of ammo. Yeah, I mean, shooting the polearms isn't abysmal, I guess, but definitely not getting you enough value for it to be really worth it. So, here's what I would do with Little Grom right now. Your opponent's, like, posted up in the trees here. They've got a nice forest screening a lot of their missiles. I think it's time to rotate some with Little Grom. It takes a bit of time, but it's going to be worth it, I think. Although, you are getting some good shots on the Lord now. Beautiful hit there. On the Fleet Admiral, 600 HP lost in one shot. Little Grom showing off the moves here. Used a lot of ammo on this big boy. More cannonballs coming in, but not landing square against the Fleet Admiral this time. Invo goes down, heals up all that damage. Still think rotating is the best call. Good shooting from the Kossar Spears. They are poking down the deckhand mobs right now. Griffin Legion doing a great job of pulling the Rotting Leviathans out of position here. And now going to use the Griffin Legion to get up in the back line and just run over the handguns. And you could probably do the same on this side and get up on this other handgun, or hand cannon, I should say. They're very short range. They can get maybe one volley off as you're trying to close the gap. You should be able to get in and kill them, though. Well, the Griffin Legion need to be careful now. They're rotating back. As long as Suga just keeps playing patient like this, the game should go in their favor. They've got the number 3. Vampire Coast is having a hard time grabbing objectives. They're being outmaneuvered pretty thoroughly right now on the Griffin Legion. Oh, the animated Hulks are so out of position to support the deck gunners. We do get the Salt Lord Scuttlers up, though. Are they going to be enough to save this here? Wow, and a bloated corpse coming in. Oh, my God. Look at the damage going down on the Griffin Legion. They're getting massacred right now. Dude, they're going to get killed by the bloated corpse here. No attempt to dodge. Oh, my God. Oh, the bloated corpse actually paid off there, I would say. If the Griffin Legion had gotten that charge off with the 30-plus models they had before that bloated corpse exploded on them, they'd probably killed the deck gunners completely. Instead, they do take some pretty nasty damage, but they're at least alive. They should be able to continue to get some value. Although they probably need a heal here. I think Vampire Coast could probably do with a small leadership buff to their units. Because Vampire Counts can afford to have low leadership, but the crumbling gets pretty bad for Coast because they don't have any passives to mitigate the damage. And they've got really low leadership on their missiles, which are their hard carry units. I think it's a little brutal right now. I think if you buffed up their leadership by about 5 across the board, they'd be in a pretty good spot. Kislev getting up in the face of the undead here, finally. Zargard looking to push the back line. Handguns, or the hand cannons, I should say. Getting a nice volley off, and the animated Hulks do close the gap, but Zargard are very, very tough to kill in melee. even for animated Hulks at their AP, just because they have 50 melee defense, man. One of the tankiest infantry units in the game when it comes to stats. They should be able to kill both animated Hulks. I think the focus fire might be able to wear them out, though. But we got a little bit of an unfortunate overlap here. Gotta be very careful with your missiles as the Vampire Coast. Because they're all guns, if you overlap them at all, you're going to obstruct a majority of your models because they won't shoot through one another. I've seen a lot of people suggest that you can turn on a forced friendly fire mode. I actually think it's a really bad idea. I think people would figure that out pretty quickly. I think it would be funny for CA to put that in for a while, and I think everybody would very quickly come to realize just how unintentionally terrible that particular choice of design would end up being. I think most people would just end up obliterating their own units more than they would the enemy if you did that. But it might help factions like the Vampire Coast in some very niche situations. Animated Hulks go down, and now the Zargard are just in the biggest, most just devastating crossfire I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I don't think they're even going to be able to retreat here before they all get shot to death. The last, like, 10 guys looking to peel out of here, still getting staggered and shot to bits. Bye-bye. Sorry, Zargard. They did their best. They just weren't equal to the task. Winged Lancers fighting the Rotting Leviathans out here, and the Streltsy did get shut down for a moment there. They do manage to get free, and they're trying to shoot the Rotting Leviathans, but it's not really worth it right now.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Kislev still hanging on to the number 3. Streltsy opening up on the Bloated Corpse, very sneaky. Didn't get a lot of value that first time around. I mean, the damage was pretty important, but the deck gunners ended up crumbling out anyways. Suga's shooting is proving to be a little bit more effective here, I think. One gunnery mob is going to be crumbling out in a moment. It looks like he got hit by the Hawks of Miska. I haven't seen a ton of good uses out of this up to this point. Hawks of Miska can be used very aggressively to clear out chaff on your own melee troops because it doesn't do damage to friendlies. I actually really like it for that particular use case, just to pop on your frontline forces. Using it in the backline is fine, but I think Kislev is more than well suited enough to push through the front and then compromise Vampire Coast missiles anyways. So just killing the chaff off first is probably a better option. Griffin Legion just running everything down right now. Depth Guard getting munched on from the rear now. Trying to attack the Cossars. They were doing a little bit of work there for a moment. Now they're shut down again, and the hand cannons just continually having to trot forward with very poor LOS on this map. Not finding any real success. They've not traded well at all up to this stage of the game. Streltsy hanging on to the number 1. Kislev gonna be taking the number 2 soon. I think it's only a matter of time at this stage. The Rotting Leviathans have just been fighting out on the flank the whole time. They have not been supporting the middle at all. I honestly think that the deck droppers would be better out on the flank supporting stuff like deckhand mobs and scurvy dogs, and have these Rotting Leviathans here in the middle. Because what you could do is have the Rotting Leviathans just run over all of the Cossars, right? And you've got so many heals for these guys that, you know, Little Grom, despite using all of its ammunition and even these Streltsy being here, you'd probably be able to keep the Rotting Leviathans alive. And they would have gotten probably much better than the value they've got currently. It's not bad, but it's definitely leaving a little bit to be desired. Especially considering the fact that you just aren't able to take any of these points and hold on to them. Every time the Rotting Leviathans move off the point, Kislev gets cavalry forward and immediately takes the point right back. It's been going that way all game, and now there's a very isolated Rotting Leviathan being attacked by the Mordheim Beowulfs too. It's important to have these guys here because they're negating any incoming healing by 100%. What that means is that you can use Invo on that monster. You'll still use the Winds of Magic to cast the spell, but it won't get any of the healing. You can see the Curse of Undeath being applied. That regeneration rate, 0%. Really unfortunate, man. I don't know if there's going to be any chance for the Vampire Coast to come back in this game. They're just pushed so far back. Huge value deficit, not really something they can deal with. Typically, the Vampire Coast is a faction that needs to get up on the points, force their opponent up into them, and then get a lead, and just continue to maintain caps and a value lead in order to take victories. Once you're down by about 2,000 gold, it's very difficult to make any kind of comeback happen. Little Grom obstructed, not wanting to fire point blank here for some reason. This happens. I'd just get it back even farther. Try and just get it all the way away from the Rotting Leviathans here. Although one is going down, it's going to crumble out very, very shortly here. The Snow Leopard's been very impactful. The Mornite Beowulfs, with their good stats, even though they're not an anti-large unit, just having the healing mitigation and this 47 melee, 47 weapon strength that's AP with 41 melee attack, it's decent enough that it can do pretty reliable damage to the Rotting Leviathan. Animated Hulk's coming up out here. Number 3 gets capped, but like I was expecting, the middle got taken by Kislev. They are losing a little momentum out here on the number 1, though. We do have Felix running around here, trying to get after the depth guard. He needs to be careful, though. So here's the thing about Felix, right? Felix is a great character. He does a lot of damage to heavily armored infantry, sure. But with only 53 armor at this stage of the game, the depth guard with their 71 weapon strength and 57 melee attack are actually going to shred him pretty quickly. He's only got 4,100 HP. His heal is strong, but with no buffering, and he's taken all the damage from the depth guard, he could run into some serious problems. We do get a Zargard moving up. They should be able to fight pretty evenly with the depth guard. A lot of deckhand mobs moving up. Getting up on the number 2 here, we've got 3 coming in with the deck gunners in reserve, looking to shoot down the Ataman, who's only gotten about 300 value. Really not that good. Frost Maiden has also done pretty poorly. Despite the value lead, Kislev is not looking that great right now. They've got a lot of units trying to deal with this Rotting Leviathan in the back line. I mean, they are looking pretty solid on the caps, though. I mean, I just noticed, God, dude, those triple caps and even a double cap just rack up tickets so quickly sometimes, I swear. It's really easy to lose track of tickets in games. Kislev's going to be fine. They just need to bunker up on one objective or just keep the cap on the number 2 as long as possible. And even if the Vampire Coast took the triple cap here temporarily, I think once the Leviathan goes down here, like the Streltsy and the Beowulfs, Kossars, they could probably get up on the number 3 and take that away anyways. But damn good attempt by King of the Jungle. Kislev's a very hard matchup for the Vampire Coast. Kislev just has a really good spell kit in the Tempest magic with Hawks of Miska against them. They've got archers. Archers are a big weak link for the Vampire Coast. They don't really have anything that can take archers down, really. Just because stuff like Kossars and Lothern Sea Guard or High Elf Archers, Glade Guard are all fairly long range. And if they can't shoot the gun line safely, they can still shoot the front line without putting themselves in danger. And, you know, deckhand mobs have 15 armor. They get shredded by archers. There's usually a way to take down just about everything the Vampire Coast has. Vampire Coast just needs missile superiority in matchups like this. I don't think that the hand cannons are the way to go here. They're too short range. They don't really kill anything better than just standard handguns either. And they can't counterfire as reliably. I would just rather see three zombie pirate handguns instead of the hand cannons. I like the Rotting Leviathans. I think they need to support the middle fight more, though. And the deck droppers should be on the outside. Where they are a little bit farther away from stuff like Little Grom and the Kossars. And probably are going to get a little bit of support to be able to take down like one or two Streltsy that might be out there on the side objective trying to hold that down. Suga played that very cleanly. The Hawks of Miska could have done to see them used a little bit more efficiently. But they're a Vortex, and sometimes Vortexes just move weird and don't hit what you're trying to aim for. So, that could be part of it. I didn't get a good look at where they were going in. I'll do Rock versus Coast soon, Tommy. We got King of the Jungle out of the way. I promised him that I would do his replay first, since he was one of the other people who was looking for a live cast in the first round. Fire Blood is pretty hateful. You know, I thought that the Korngor's Unbreakable was going to be similarly effective, but that's something that's very interesting about the abilities and the way that CA codes their the differences between units. Like, Korngors, in theory, have pretty much the exact same thing, but the thing about Korngors and Fury of the Skull Throne is it's HP less than 50%. These guys can get broken by terror-causing monsters before they get down to that point, oftentimes, I've found. For Kislev, it's totally different. Kislev is only, the only way that Fire Blood procs is when leadership is wavering or lower, and what makes that so much better is that these guys aren't affected by terror routes, because terror routes technically count as leadership wavering or lower. So it procs immediately, and it keeps them in the fight where they otherwise would be running where Korngors do oftentimes. And Kislev having that on literally everything is so strong, because they just fight to the bitter end oftentimes. Especially the stuff that's got like 75 leadership. Because if you look at it objectively, Kislev's actually a fairly low leadership faction across the board. You're looking at like the 60s, you're looking at 60 here for Kislevite Warriors, 65 for Armored Kossars at 700 gold. That really isn't very good leadership, but that Fire Blood makes up for all of the potential inefficiencies. And then when you get to Zargard, with 75 leadership, Fire Blood just makes them functionally unbreakable. It's so crazy. They definitely need it, though. If Kislev didn't have Fire Blood, they'd honestly be pretty terrible. I kind of like where Kislev is balance-wise. I think there are plenty of factions that don't have too bad of a time against Kislev. There's just bad matchups in the game, you know. Kislev does pretty well into the undead in general, which is a pretty nice niche for a mortal faction. Because most of the undead factions are very good into the mortals. The Vampire Coast struggles a little bit if they get outshot, but generally speaking, they're pretty strong. Into, you know, like Empire, they're good into Skaven especially. Skaven have a horrible matchup against the Vampire Coast, in my personal experience. Clan Rats being affected by fear on literally everything is so bad. Oh my god. I've seen games where deckhand mobs have taken fights against Clan Rats, and the Clan Rats rout within the first, like, 20 seconds of the fight, and they've barely taken any damage. It's kind of crazy. Got some Coast versus Cathay. I'm just downloading more replays, and then we'll get into some more. We got Rek here, who I assume is our Cathay player in question. Not a lot of people playing them nowadays. There are fairly unpopular. And I haven't seen Dark Age Rush around in a while. They were like the community Cathay domination specialist. Since they kind of dipped out and have taken a bit of a break, there really hasn't been anybody to pick up that mantle. Second Coast game, the Slaughter Guard column was a misclick. Slaughter Guard against the Coast period is definitely a pick. I don't hate it. There's definitely some units that it can do really well against, but they can definitely get shredded by missiles. But I hear you on the misclick. I have definitely done that in plenty of tournament games. I'd actually like to talk about that. Let's get into a match though, and I can kind of talk about it as we're going through something for visual reference. Because there are definitely times that the way that the reinforcement UI is laid out, and the way that it functions, can actually contribute to those misclicks, just by pure unintentional hilarity. It's a little wonky. There's some quality of life things I would like to see get changed for it, so that it makes it a little less common. Oh, I can't pull up the reinforcement panels, duh. So, anyways, just real quick, like when you're playing in the game and you click on your reinforcement points, you get the little... Okay, thank you, Skulltaker. Please stop interrupting. Anyways, after that rude interruption from our boy Skulltaker, when you click on your reinforcement summon points and the reinforcement panel comes up, it expands and shrinks based on what's in your reinforcement pool. I wish it would just stay set at a double row and just fill in the blanks as it goes along, instead of the way it works right now, where it does this weird expanding and shrinking deal. Because that completely throws people off, because when you're in the heat of a battle and you're clicking to try and summon something in, if something gets put back into the reinforcement pool at the wrong time, it'll shift what you're clicking on, and you can unintentionally summon out the wrong kind of unit at the worst possible moment. If they just changed it so that the panel was always a double wide with 2 rows, that would happen pretty much never. You would always have room to fill in, and then it wouldn't have to be like swapping your cursor around onto other units without your foreknowledge. It's just like it's like one of my smaller gripes. There's always tons of little things that can be improved on. I think, honestly, though, Total Warhammer 3, balance-wise, in terms of multiplayer, is in as good of a spot as it's ever been in. There's definitely always going to be things that are a little overtuned, but I actually kind of like that in some ways, because it can always be scaled back in other patches. And just open up a little more counterplay. Generally speaking, though, there isn't any one faction other than Slaanesh that is like truly dominant right now. Like Vampire Counts and Beastmen are up there in terms of win rate, but they've got their share of like even to bad matchups. And you know, in SFTs, sometimes you just run into bad matchups and it can feel really awful. But, you know, if you're playing like a 3x3 tournament, or the pick 3s, ban 1s, or just pick 6s, or pick 5s, or whatever the other formats are that open up more options for factions to play overall, you've almost always got a way to be able to play the counter pick game against your opponent. I really, really love that right now. And pretty much all of the factions have a win rate above 40% right now. I think Cathay is the only one hovering around the breaking point to get under 40. Marauder Horsemen of Khorne chasing down the Broken Tusk mob. Getting some good damage off. Nothing tremendous. Every little bit helps here, though. The Boar Riders for the Greenskins are one of the biggest threats that Khorne has to deal with. They're just so damn annoying. They do a ton of damage. They've got AP, they got big charge bonuses, and they're cheap, so they actually beat up on Minotaurs quite badly. The throwing axes are a great answer, but you can't let the throwing axes get countercharged. They do take a little damage, but a really good collapse here. You get the Hounds of the Blood Hunt folding into the front and attacking the Savage Orc Boar Boys, actually. Savage Orc Boar Boys are not a very good pick over the Standard Boar Cavalry because they don't have as much armor, and they're very reliant on that Phys Res, so Fleshhounds actually trade very well into them. And we've got Furies flying overhead, big fight going off on the front line as well. Savage Orc Biggins getting folded up right now, though. Some more Savage Orcs running. Bloodwake Berserkers just scrapping in melee with Skull Taker running over everything in the front line. Skull Taker is such a terrifying lord. Especially against Horde factions, where him being on this chariot pretty much guarantees him the charge on Cloak of Skulls. He becomes impossible to shoot down at that point. And with his basically unbreakable leadership and Gore Feast, he will almost always heal cap and probably get you about 3,000 value just running over infantry. He is absolutely vicious. Wolf Raiders being killed here. Chaos Furies helping save the Horsemen here. Khorne Horsemen very healthy. Look at the Hounds of the Blood Hunt. 600 value and their full health. Dude, the Boar Boy Biggins got absolutely slapped down. Beluga playing crazy well right now. Thunderos probably being a little too aggressive here. Khorne is not somebody that you typically want to take head-up fights against. Greenskins can do it, but they need to play very cost-effectively, and they need to avoid engagements against the Bloodwake Berserkers. The Berserkers are just cracked, dude. I mean, this unit is absolutely insane. You have to shoot them down. If you fight them in melee combat, you're outplaying yourself. Very much so. Because their stats are just broken. I mean, 84 melee attack with the buffs from Skull Taker. They have 116 leadership right now with all the buffs. Good weapon strength. Crazy good melee defense at 61. Bloodwake Berserkers individually equal out to Archaon's power level in terms of the stats. They have the same melee defense and like one less melee attack, I think. With immune to flanking, so they just never take any leadership penalties, and they always have melee defense and an aura around them, and they're just bullying everything that comes into their path. You have to kill them with your ranged tools. Just play footsie with them. Like, keep your infantry away, try to outmaneuver them as much as possible, and use your Rugloods and your Morgrubs, as well as these Wolf Riders, to shoot them down. Khorne, though, at this point in the game, is just all over the Greenskins. Like, the Marauder front line has gotten folded up, but the Furies and the Horsemen now are killing a lot of the mobility that the Greenskins are relying on. You can see more Savage Orc Boar Boys being shredded here. Savage Orc Biggins do get Aspect of the Dread Knight, so they get a little bit of magic damage. They also cause terror, but they're not going to be able to cause any terror routes as long as the leadership is this high. Khorne units have Frenzy, so their ITP, as long as their leadership is, you know, solid and holding strong. Beautiful Sword of Khorne on the Rusty Heirs, basically one-shotting the unit. See the guys that were outside the radius, very lucky to be alive right now. Furies getting a last-minute dive onto the Rugloods, and Azag very unequal to the task of combating Khorne in this particular game. Trying to counterpick against the Khorne Lord options is kind of a coin toss nowadays. It's going to be Valkia or Skull Taker, and I would expect Skull Taker more often than not, just because of how durable he is and how well he enables Khorne to just unga bunga into people with the buffs that he provides to the front line. It's so nasty, dude, and he is really hard to fight in melee himself because he's got 61 melee attack with Totem and Revelant Slaughter active, with his weapon strength, which is 510 at base, plus whatever he's getting from Hellblade or any other abilities he might pop. With that Unyielding Assault, he will absolutely smack up other single entities. And healing in combat, there's a lot that you've got to account for with him. Bringing something to be able to deal with them is kind of huge. You've always got to have it in the back pocket. Otherwise, you just get wrecked. And Azag's not going to be able to do that. Azag just doesn't have the melee stats to fight Skull Taker in a prolonged engagement. And you kind of have to take a prolonged fight against Skull Taker because of his heal. Because if you don't attack him and get him really low early, and he's able to just continue to ride around through your chaff infantry, he is going to get substantial amount of heals going. Just because of how hard he is to hit. Azag is better against Valkia. He is capable of killing her. He outspeeds her, and with the poison, he can force fights against Valkia. When she has Demon Shield down, and you can get a few hits in on her, and then run away yourself. Spirit Leech is also pretty good against Valkia, because even though you do have spell resistance on her, it's enough damage from Spirit Leech that it can wear out over the course of a game. I just don't love the Buna and Aspect of the Dread Knight. Aspect of the Dread Knight doesn't last long enough. It's only 16 seconds. It's super cheap, but I just don't ever see it do a lot of work. If you're gonna bring Azag, Doom and Darkness and Spirit Leech are your best bets. Maybe Soul Blight as well can be okay. But generally speaking, what you really want as the greenskins is the either the Goblin magic, or you want the Orc lore. With Fist of Gork, here we go, which buffs up melee attack and melee defense. And Fist of Gork also gives magic damage to your units, and melee defense, which is awesome. I would much rather see those than the death magic in this matchup. Azag just doing his best, but Khorne just has a full lockdown on the ground at this point. It's just a handful of greenskin units trickling in and being dealt with by the remaining mobility. You got a bunch of Warhounds out, too. The Warhounds have been actually okay this game. They've been used to chase a lot of stuff off the field. Another Sword of Khorne comes down. That one was more BM than anything. It's not actually going to do any damage to the Broken Tusk mob. They're too heavily armored for it. I mean, it took like maybe 10% of their HP off. The rest of it's being taken out by the fleshies. Who are they getting buffed? No, they're not getting... Oh, they are getting buffed up right now. God, dude. Even in terrain, with the very tired reduction to the melee attack, extra 16 from Skull Taker is putting so much work in. He's gotten 700 value, but he's probably allowed all of the other Khorne units to grind for probably an additional like 1,500 they otherwise wouldn't be able to get. So, you know, even though Skull Taker may not always get his value back per se, it's a little deceptive just because of how well he facilitates trades elsewhere. As long as he's in the general area as Khorne, wherever your main fight is going down, you're having a pretty good time. And Beluga's done a very good job of maneuvering him around and keeping him in position to attack enemies. And now he's beating the crap out of Azag. Azag getting smacked down, not just by the throwing axes, but Skull Taker himself. I mean, he went from 788 value to 13 in no time at all. And Azag with only 400 is pretty brutal, man. Poor dude just hadn't been able to anchor anywhere. Berserker's still going crazy. They got half their HP and they've already paid for themselves. These guys can get you 3,000 plus value if they don't get shot down. This is the kind of game where they'd just be able to go forever. There's nothing the Greenskins can do to kill them at this point. This is a feels bad, man. These are the kind of games that make Khorne feel really overpowered, but if you know how to play into Khorne, and your matchup knowledge is really solid, and you can kite them effectively, Khorne's not nearly as scary. It's taking these head-up engagements against them that gets really dicey. And allowing Khorne to have the mobility advantage is another big problem. Marauders running around. Oh, look at this Fury Swarm, dude. My god. Azag does not Look happy. Look at his face, dude. Says it all. He's like, holy shit, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Glowing green eyes and all, man. He's not having it. Nerf Buyer Blood and then see how much Kislev pays for all their units. Buyer Blood is probably more busted in land battles and conquest. In domination mode, it's really good. It's probably not nearly as infuriating, though. It's still pretty damn annoying, but you can at least disengage a little bit cleaner in domination mode. Whereas in land battles, if you just run away from a Kislev unit while their Buyer Blood is going off, you're taking a bunch of damage on the way out because a lot of their units are hybrids and they'll shoot you as you're running away, and you don't get reinforcements to make up for the losses. I can definitely see a little bit of abuse coming in from Kislev there because of that. Great stuff, dude. Beluga played very, very well. Thunderos just needs to tool this build up a little bit differently. No Savage Orcs of any kind. Thank you. They just get wrecked by everything Khorne has. Furies, just eat them for breakfast. I know that Savage Orcs are generally pretty good against backline pressure, but because of the melee attack and weapon strength and magic damage that Furies have, they just completely ignore the damage that Savage Orcs are doing in return. Because Savage Orcs don't have magic attacks. They may have good weapon strength and good melee attack in their own right, but the Furies are shaking 20% of that damage off outright. So, whereas typically the Savage Orcs are doing that in return to whatever is diving them, it's completely flipped around in this matchup. So, just get rid of all of them, bring standard Orc Boys instead. They'll do better, trust me. I've played a lot of greenskins as Khorne. What are some of the other good tools that you can bring as the greenskins in this matchup? Just real quick. Won't get bogged down too long. I really like Gorbad here. You do need to protect him and be a little careful with him, but his buffs are amazing. They help out tremendously. You can do the boss's plan and Orcs are the best with the Great Leader, and he's pretty expensive, but he's very much worth it. Those buffs make a big difference for your frontline engagements and trading into Khorne. You can do your Night Goblin Shaman, you can bring Gorkle Fix-It, Itchy Nuisance, Sneaky Stabbin'. All of these spells are very effective. Gorkle Fix-It is CC. Khorne hates being slowed in any way, and this is a pretty significant debuff to speed as well. 45% also lowers charge speed and bonus, which is pretty nutty for such a cheap spell in an AoE. Can't go wrong with it. Itchy Nuisance, minus 24 melee attack, lowers base weapon damage, which isn't that important. Really, you just use this to lower a melee attack on frontline fights with like lots of marauders and stuff in the radius. And Sneaky Stabbin' you give to your Orc Boar Boy Biggins so that they can uptrade. You can also do the Orc Shaman. Get this guy nice and cheap. Make sure that you got something that can protect him a little bit. And he'll just drop Fist of Gork and here we go all game. And you get a big spike in your damage potential on your units. And at that point, with your numbers, you should be able to overwhelm Khorne. Just with the buff build. That's what I call it, at least. Let me go ahead and get rid of the replays that I've already done so I don't accidentally try and cover them again. Alright, what do we want to see here? Oh, wasn't there somebody asking for some Tomb Kings? Tomb Kings versus Khorne is really, really rough. I wish we had a... Oh, Tomb Kings versus Norska. Tomb Kings versus Norska is pretty forbidding, because you don't have a great way of punishing skin wolves. And Norska is so aggressive, they can absolutely push you back, and they can bring Burning Head to kill all your skeletons. If you really want to know what to do in Tomb Kings versus Norska, you don't play that matchup, honestly. Tomb Kings, if realistically speaking, against Norska, are just going to need to keep their units very close together and make sure that you're focus firing very, very exceptionally well, so that you're killing their big stuff. You want to try and make it so that Norska's mobility is dead, and then you can just have your shooting finish off all of their melee units, either by gunning it down or just swarming it with all the cheap Tomb King's cavalry. Tomb Kings against Dark Elves is a little bit better. Dark Elves do have Burning Head, which by itself is very threatening. I mean, it just roasts so many of the Tomb King's units. But at the very least, here in this matchup, Tomb King's shooting is a very effective answer for what the Dark Elves can bring. Dark Elves, Cold One Knights tend to be a little weak in this matchup because they don't kill Skeleton Horsemen quickly enough to get around them. And the Ushabti Greatbows do enough damage that they can kill models on the Cold One Knights fairly quickly. You know, these guys have 6,400 HP on 48 models, so they're fairly resilient, but just like 2 shots on each model from an Ushabti Greatbow is usually enough to kill a Cold One Knight, and the missiles do pierce. So we'll see if Meat is able to get that going. And there is a War Hydra on the field. Pont loves bringing War Hydras and some of the more non-meta options for the Dark Elves, and is generally pretty good at utilizing them. I've seen some pretty good value out of them at times. Good damage from the Screaming Skull Catapult. We got the Black Ark Corsairs getting bullied a little bit. War Hydra uses the Breath Attack, but doesn't really hit anything. Little damage on some of the skeletons, but that's it. And most of that damage just going by the boards, not getting anything, you know, monumental there. Black Ark Corsairs a little beat up, but they should be able to grind through the skeletons just fine. Excellent answer for Chaff Infantry. Which is maybe why I'm a little confused as to why there's Burning Head as well. If you're going to go for Black Ark Corsairs to try and kill your opponent's skeletons, Burning Head I think is a little superfluous for that purpose. You might want to bring Spirit Leech instead, because you can do some pretty horrible damage to the Tomb King's Lords. Just by hitting them with Spirit Leech over and over again. Especially like Cathay, Arkan, Cetra on horseback, who those lords have like more limited amounts of HP. It's pretty nice. Cetra on the Kemerian War Sphinx can be pretty hard to kill, but usually is going to do okay against him as well. Ushabti Greatbow's trying to get away. These Cold One Knights do close the gap. This is a big unforced error from the Tomb Kings. You don't have to send all of your skeletons forward. Like, they've got terrible cap weight. You do need to make sure you have one objective. But making sure that if you've got double Ushabti Greatbow in the opening, making sure that they have at least one spearman to buffer for them is pretty critical. Because if you fumble around, even for a second, against the Cold One Knights and they get on top of your Ushabti, you can see how much damage the Ushabti immediately start taking here. Massive damage going down on these guys. Really good Usirians coming in. Definitely trying to get some vengeance for the Ushabti, who are going down pretty hard right now. They've lost half their HP, 4 models gone. They're crumbling. They're having so many problems right now. Cold One Knights might get pushed back, but they should value trade evenly, at the very least. Dark Riders coming in, and we do have the Tomb Scorpion being attacked out here by the Cold One Knights over on this side. Is attracting a lot of aggro. Sepulchral Stalkers being shut down by Dread Spears. Dude, the pressure from Pont's infantry has been super clutch so far. They're locking down a lot of Tomb King's units at once, right? Like, you got one Dread Spear over here occupying 4 infantry for the Tomb Kings. You've got very beat up Blackguard Corsair occupying 2 spears here. You've won the engagements out on this flank. The Dread Spear in the back line. A 450 gold Dread Spear has been chasing back the Sepulchral Stalkers for about 30 seconds now. It's a long time to not have the laser eyes for the snakes getting you any value. They get a few point-blank shots against the Dread Spears here, but nothing too serious to punish them. And the Coldwell Knights do go down, and the Ushabti do rally with 8 of their models. They're very beat up, but they aren't crumbling, so they should be able to get some pretty solid value still. That was a huge save for the Tomb Kings. They need to be very careful and protect these guys, though, because if you lose them now, it could be a game pretty fast. Nakara Horsemen attacking the Dread Spears with carrion support. Shouldn't be terrible for them. Hopefully they can kill those Dread Spears quickly. War Hydra is also locking down the Sepulchral Stalkers now, and Blackguard Corsair is going to come up and buffer for this fight. Really good stuff, and the Tomb Scorpion goes down and all the hubbub. And now you've got some of the Dark Shards getting free. Which is great news for the Dark Elves, because the Dark Shards will be very good at shooting the Sepulchral Stalkers. Again, running with these guys, constantly on the back foot. Me just can't get set up to shoot. And that's never a good position to be in as the Tomb Kings. This is why I'm saying, so like, the Dark Elves are doing a great job of hounding down the Tomb Kings shooting right now. Norska can do it even better because they've got even faster, even more aggressive, even better value trading mobility pieces in Skin Wolves, in Norskan Ice Wolves, Beasts of Tashnar. They've got Famir, who can be pretty hard to take down for the Tomb Kings if you just bring like a Famir Great Weapon. This is a good matchup for Famir Great Weapons. Miststalker is a lot less good against Undead. They're a little bit less effective than the Great Weapons in this particular matchup, so I might see those. Or you might see those. There's Javelins as well, the Marauder Hunters. They can be fairly effective against the Tomb Kings. So yeah, I mean, this in a way is kind of illustrating my point about Tomb Kings do really well when they set up and they're able to fire and get a value lead early and out-trade the opponent. If they get put on the back foot early, and then they start to either lose the value trades or they just fight evenly, they oftentimes are going to lose because their cap weight is so bad. They've got expendable cap weight on all skeletons outside, like Nekara Warriors and the Tomb Kings are the only infantry they have that have good cap weight, and that's starting to get a little pricey considering all the like monsters and Sepulchral Stalkers and Ushabti that you want to be using. You just don't get the opportunity to counter push your opponent in the late game. So really the Tomb Kings need to just trade pure value in games if they're going to win. And if they don't get to do that, and then they have to push back out in the late game, even if the Tomb Kings were to somehow unfuck their backline, they'd still have to get up on these other two objectives, because the Dark Elves are going to have better cap weight the whole game. They're going to retake the number 3 probably, and it's going to get really scary. This War Hydra has been absolutely brutal. Sepulchral Stalkers go down back here. They just weren't able to survive. K-Knight Assassin finishes Cathay here. 1,200 value on the K-Knight Assassin. What an absolute badass dude. Just running around with that 43 foot speed and the little hand bow he's got. It's been firing fairly effectively. And the Black Dragon Egg, as well as the Assassin's Trophy and Web of Shadows, has gotten him a little bit of value too. I'm really loving that. K-Knight Assassins have been seeing a lot of play for Dark Elves lately, I've noticed. Anytime there's a matchup with potentially either really high-value lords like Cetra or really squishy lords like Cathay, these guys can value trade very well into both of those. They do a little less good against, like, mid-tier combat character lords because they just lose the one-on-ones oftentimes because they don't have AP and their weapon strength is pretty low despite good stats. Canine assassins would lose to something like Cultists of Khorne as well as Wargors. Skulltaker can kill canine assassins with absolutely no problems. He just brutalizes them. Yeah, if these guys get to maneuver around and use their items and then shoot a little bit, they can be very, very cost-effective. Burning Heads really haven't been all that impactful, which I'm not super surprised by. I do think we've seen a couple of, I think we have seen a Flaming Sword of Ruin. I'm pretty sure I saw it being popped at one point. Fire Magic honestly needs some buffs, because really the only great spell they has is Burning Head. I'd like to see Flaming Sword of Ruin get some buffs, as well as Fireball get a little more AP, and Piercing Bolts of Burning maybe cast a little bit quicker, and I think the Lore of Fire would be really well balanced with nerf to Burning Head at that point. But I don't know if it's a requirement. Burning Head is just so overrepresented. I think it's time for maybe a little bit of a shake-up there. If it never changes, it's not that big of a deal, though. Just be nice to see the magic be a little bit more thought out. Whatever Total War, or whatever, I mean, there's going to be another Total War, but whatever Warhammer franchise they do the next game on, I would really like to see them rework the magic system. It's gotten better through the years in Warhammer. It's still a little oversimplistic, though. And, you know, iteration is very important, in my book, for the health of a, like, multiplayer game. And they've done a really good job of that with the DLCs, but just with some of the mechanics I would like to see updated a little bit, so that maybe it's a little bit more consistent across the board in terms of performance, because right now you've got, like, I would say, like, maybe 8 or 9 spells, with, like, 1, maybe 2 from each lore, that are just, like, massively over-represented because of how effective they are versus everything else. If they adjust that, then it could be just really nice to see. I would appreciate it. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I wouldn't be too terribly surprised to see pretty similar sentiments from a lot of folks. Alright, let's watch some Beastmen next. We haven't seen any of them yet. We did get somebody sending them in. Where is that Beastmen game? Did I download it? Hello? Oh, literally right here in front of me. Oh, Piston! Okay, Piston is normally on Khorne. Playing with the Beastmen here. I do like this opener for the most part. I don't love Minotaurs for the Beastmen. I think they're fine. There's definitely times that they can really shine. But against the Dark Elves, I would much prefer to see a Gorbel. Gorbels are absolutely vicious single entities. They body the Siren of Red Rune as well. Double Gorbel is pretty affordable, and you can keep the Bloodrack Medusas on the run the entire game, just having them chased around by the Gorbels all game. The Minos will be able to keep it at bay a little bit, while the Unga Raiders, with their weight of fire, they can actually take this monster down pretty fast. Bloodrack Medusas are a little bit difficult for missiles to kill at times because they stagger so much when they get shot. But they are very lightly armored, and the Unga Raiders, while they're not like the best unit in the world, they fire quick enough. They can usually pile in shots fast enough on the Siren that they're able to effectively damage it, even if it's staggering. I don't know what it is about them that makes them so good against this thing, but It seems like bows are a little bit more effective at shooting the siren than guns are. Guns seem to knock stuff down a little bit too much for this thing's stagger numbers. That's another thing I would like to see get changed. I would like for stagger to actually matter. Right now, the way that staggers work in-game is really it just makes units temporarily invincible, which is just really stupid. I would actually like to see staggers happen a lot less often, but make it so that maybe in the future, if units are fighting in melee, and your unit gets knocked over, your opponent's unit can then follow up with like a special attack onto the grounded target and do a little extra damage to it. I think that would be really interesting to see, and maybe make the make melee fights a little bit more dynamic than just units wildly flailing at one another, as it often ends up being. I know that Pharaohs may not be the most popular Total War game. There's some similar stuff going on in that game to what I'm describing, and it's also got some other pretty cool mechanics in the actual like battle features that I think would help add some flavor to the Total Warhammer series. Because that game actually has a lot more like sync animations than Warhammer has right now. Sync animations were bugged for like all of Warhammer 3. They fixed some of them, but a lot of them still never play in battles. So when you get down on the individual level, the details look incredible, like aesthetically. But oftentimes you'll notice like the same animations playing out all the time, and I think it would be a little bit more vibrant if they could change that up a little bit. Really decent collapse from the Beastmen. You do want to get up in your opponent's face, but you do need to make sure that your Unger Raiders are up behind the front line. You don't want them out here. This is not a good spot for them to be. Your opponent, if they could see them... God, dude, if these Unger Raiders are visible right now and you got one Dark Rider on their flank, maybe two. Weight of Fire could kill the Dark Rider. Two Dark Riders could easily take down all these Unger Raiders. Unger Raiders don't want to be playing on the flanks all that much. They actually just want to pop in and out of stealth behind the front line and chip away. You've got a lot of Zangors in this one pocket here. Getting one Zangor in here to hold multiple units is nice, and get the other two around the back and try to collapse on the rear with your Senegors. You YOLO'd the Senegors in too aggressively. Senegors are not meant to take these aggressive backline attacks. They don't do that well. They're too squishy. They have 35 armor. Senegors are a countercharge unit. They're not an Unga Bunga unit, believe it or not. In the late game, when you've got the mobility advantage and your opponent's infantry is a little more broken down, and they can, like, hammer and anvil off of one another, you can 100% use them aggressively. In early game situations for the Beastmen, though, Beastmen actually, they want to be very discerning about the fights they take. You want to use your Vanguard to get points early, size up your opponent's initial formation, recognize what you do and don't have to counter their strong units. Right now, okay. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's take ourselves back to the beginning of this game. And the Dark Elves, they've got a bunch of Bleak Swords in the front line. Zangors beat Bleak Swords very comfortably. Absolutely no problems. And they've got all these Black Art Corsair handbows, right? Zangors can sit and get shot by the Corsair handbows, no problem. There's nothing other than the Siren of Red Ruin to force the Beastmen forward. What you can do against the Siren of Red Ruin is bait it forward with the opportunity to shoot at Zangors. Pull the Zangors back a little bit, bring your Unger Raiders into position to then counterfire the Siren of Red Ruin, do a bunch of damage to it and force it back, and then just jockey for position. Hold on to the number 2 as long as possible, giving a little bit of ground as the Dark Elves kind of push forward a little bit. Make sure that you're not overextending anything. Keep your Centigors back for a little bit. Look for opportunities on the flanks. Just push the Centigors out, but don't just immediately try and collapse on the formation. See if you can't pull some Dark Riders out of position to then countercharge with your superior speed. Because, you know, Senegors have 92 speed with Primal Fury active. The Beastmen are super fast, and you can force your opponent out of position a lot of the time. You're not really wanting to just YOLO right up into them right out the gate more often than not. You can do it sometimes, but if you want to get super aggressive into infantry-heavy formations like what the Dark Elves opened with, that's where you need Razor Gore Chariots. There's no Razor Gore Chariot in this army. Razor Gore Chariots require a lot to shut down, and they wreck infantry, armored or otherwise. They are one of the best chariots in the game. Just one Razor Gore against this Dark Elf army can get up in the front line. They can immediately run over a Bleak Sword, get up into a Black Ark Corsair, do like half to a third of the HP off of each of those units, get like 700 value, and then just run away. It allows you to be aggressive with one unit, and then get free damage, get out, and then maybe force your opponent into a panic mode where they overextend, and you can then punish them. Melkoth's being popped, so the Dark Riders can close in on the Minotaurs a little easier, which is nice. The Minos also got thrown in, and now you're losing all the Unga Raiders. The Beastmen, Zangors, I mean, you can see the Zangors doing pretty decently for themselves. They haven't traded horribly at all. They're a very durable unit. Surprisingly tough to kill. When you just look at them on paper, you don't really think of these guys as such a roadblock. But the Silver Shield with the Protoss barrier and decent leadership with Primal Fury, as well as really solid melee defense of 38, makes them a tough unit to break down. You need to bring Zangors to play off of them as a front line. Zangors allow you to just anchor on a point a little bit firmer than people are otherwise counting on against the Beastmen. If you can take full advantage of that, you can just absolutely flatten your opponent. Fighting Marathi, I would just avoid her all game. There's no reason to attack her with Malagor. What you want to do with Malagor against a character like Marathi, you might think he would do okay into her since she's an anti-large duelist, but that's just not really the case. She's got solid enough stats, she can still pummel Malagor just fine without the bonus versus large. She's fast, but she can't catch Malagor, who's got 121 speed, as long as he's not wounded and Primal Fury is up. She can't close the gap on him unless she hits him with a Melkoth, which, you know, she could do if she wanted to. You just fly around and pop Flock of Doom and Enfeebling Foe all game, avoid damage with Malagor, and make sure that you're using your ground forces a little bit cleaner, and I think that Piston, you'll be just fine. This matchup can be a little tricky for the Beastmen, but I'm telling you, Gorbulls and Razor Gore Chariots are the secret to success here. You actually don't want to bring a bunch of Minotaurs in this matchup. You don't really want to bring more than one Minotaur in any matchup, really, in my experience, as the Beastmen. Beastmen, really, you can just bring a Senegor Throwing Axe and do just as much damage to big targets as a Minotaur can do. And Razor Gore Herd are actually very cost-effective against Cold One Knights. Razor Gore's taking a head-up charge on Cold One Knights actually outtrade the Cold One Knights pretty comfortably. Blackhorn's Ravagers coming up a little too late. They're just getting shot to death and run over now. The Black Ark Corsair Handbows did hold in. They managed to survive all game. They were just sitting behind the front line for a lot of it, firing away with their missiles. A lot of them ended up fighting Zangors. They've got solid enough stats that they can do that. They're a really good hybrid piece. They're fast. They skirmish really well with the handbows. They got a lot of ammo. And the handbows do hit fairly hard. So they're just able to wear out the Beastmen a little too quickly here. Dark Riders get charged down by Centigors. This is where you want to use Senegors. Senegors into these big infantry blocks, big no-no. Don't do it. X there. Do attack over here. Give a little check mark. Very janky check mark. But it's there nonetheless. Senis just hit so hard on the charge and have perfect vigor. They easily out-trade your opponent's mobility like Dark Riders. Combo a Senegor with a Cold One Knight. Or not. Combo a Senegor with a Razorgore herd and melt Cold One Knights. Very quickly you'll out-trade the Cold Ones with a tag team of Razorgore herd and Senis. At this point, though, the Beastmen are just so far behind in value. And the Dark Elves have so many Cold One Knights in the field that you can't trickle any one unit out at a time to kill them. Infantry are just going to keep getting cleared up by the Siren, which is pretty good value. It's only used 10 shots. You can see it getting some more damage in here. Good Unger Raider fire. You saw that volley going off there. That melted almost 400 HP off of the Siren. Now imagine if those 3 Unger Raider herds earlier had been able to all get a volley off like that on the Siren. You're melting it down like 800 HP right off the bat in that game. Your opponent's going to have to play a lot more carefully with it. And you've got all the time in the world to counter-trade against it. Because the Dark Elves brought a bunch of handbows. And the handbows, yeah, they do skirmish pretty well. But if you keep the Unger Raiders behind your front line, they pretty comfortably outrange the handbows. So you just have the handbows buffered out by the Zangors. They shoot into the shielded Zangors, and you can focus fire with your Unger Raiders onto the handbows at that point. That's another really good value trade that Piston passed up this game. Beastmen just need to play a little bit more duplicitously.
You have been bested.
Straight up rushes with them get a little bit frantic oftentimes. Keeping back early and developing out all of your tools is very strong. And I wouldn't bring this many Unger Raiders. Unger Raiders are very cheap, and if you over-invest into them, it's a lot of shooting to protect. Their cheapness is what makes them so good. If you are spending almost 2,000 gold on, it's over 2,000 gold, it's 2125, with all of these Unger Raiders, just the 3 in the opening is all you're ever going to need. You want to play to preserve their HP and use them to just focus fire things down. I mean, they're 425 gold, and with focus fire, all 3 will very quickly kill a Black Art Corsair Handbow or even the Siren of Red Ruin. They put a lot of undue pressure on your opponent to push you at that point. And when you're countercharging with the Beastmen is where they really shine because of how hard Senis hit on the charge. They're the ultimate hammer and anvil faction, and if you're being forced to constantly hammer home against your opponent, and they're able to hold their formation against you, you're not going to beat them. Because your armor is too weak, and even though you've got Primal Fury and solid leadership, even on your chaff units, it will falter eventually, and you can just start getting terror-ratted across the field. And you'll just fall so far behind you can never get back into the game at that point. Cockatrice I wouldn't bring in this matchup either. There's not enough targets for it to fight. And nothing that a Gorbel can't fight better. Butches of Kalkengard I do like in this matchup. I think you could bring them instead of the Minotaur Great Weapon. Like, cut the Mino Great Weapon and get the Butches of Kalkengard in the opening here. Keep them back, and use them once your main fight is really kicking off and your opponent's formation is in a little bit of disarray. Ungor Spear Herds in reserve, usually not a very good option. You could cut one of these Zangors and fit into the unshielded Ungor Spear Herd, and save all the gold here in reserve to just get more Centigores, get a Razorgore Chariot, get a Gorbel. You don't really need the Centi Great Weapons. The Sons of Goros are honestly not that great in this matchup either. They're good against the Cold One Knights, but as I said, Razorgore Herd in numbers are honestly just as effective. And they're a lot cheaper. For the cost of one Son of Goros, you can get 2 Razorgore Herd. The Beastmen are at their absolute pinnacle when they're getting good, solid value trades out of their entire army. Because they will just overwhelm people with numbers at that point. That's where they really punish people. Yeah, I mean, that's fine, Piston. Definitely do that. In late game situations like that, even if you're getting hard countered by your opponent and nothing is working out for you, just playing it out and getting a feel for units is a really good idea. I hope I gave you a few ideas for that matchup and how you can use your units a little bit more efficiently. Just stay back with Senegors early. I do this all the time as Beastman, where I get a little too antsy trying to charge my opponent down, but patience pays off so well for the Beastman in this game. If you can tire your opponent out as the Beastman, especially with Malagor constantly popping spells and using the lore passive to keep the rest of the army at good vigor numbers with Bestial Surge, you'll overtake your opponent at some point, and they'll fall behind for you to then take full advantage of them. Give me just 1 second, guys. I'm getting real warm here. I need to get some ice and throw it on myself, I swear. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Alright, I'm back, guys. I'll get you next, Tommy. I'm sorry about that. You're our next competitor. I'll make sure to get your game. And don't worry about it, Reaper. The first tournament's always the hardest one. I mean, it's like this is your first tournament. You played a lot of campaign. I promise you, you're doing better than you think. Once you get a little bit of time under your belt, and figure out some of the pitfalls that you're falling into, you'll start losing. You'll start winning more games than you're losing. Promise. Tips to use against Tzeentch is Dark... Oh, Tzeentch is Dark Elves. When I was reading that initially, I thought you meant how to beat Dark Elves with Tzeentch. Dark Elves actually have a pretty good matchup against Tzeentch. Let me go to the Dark Elf roster real quick. Because there's like one unit in particular that should definitely get you a nice leg up in that matchup. Scourge Runner Chariots, very strong against Tzeentch. Scourge Runner Chariots are very good bonus versus large. And Tzeentch is pretty reliant on large targets for their DPS. Right? Like, Changebringers are a large target. They've got Marauder Horsemen that are a large target. You can counterfire Cynagors with these Scourge Runners pretty well. Also, Cynagors have a little bit of a hard time closing the gap on the Scourge Runners because the speeds are pretty comparable. The Primal Fury does get the Cynagors up to 94, or 92, I should say. You do need to be a little careful of that, but generally speaking, if you just use your Scourge Runners really effectively as the Dark Elves, Tzeentch is never going to be able to touch you, and the best Lord for the Dark Elves right now is the High Beastmaster on his own Scourge Runner Chariot. This thing does an obnoxious amount of damage. I mean, look at the missile strength with the bonus versus large. He fires every 6 seconds. He has 36 ammo. He's got an insane amount of ammunition to use. He's got the Tormentor Sword as well, which is really good for stopping up your opponent if they try to close the gap on you. You've got some good Lures of Magic against Tzeentch as well. There's several ways that you could do it. You can do Fire Magic if you're expecting demons, because you can use Burning Head to kill them. Shadows Magic if you're expecting more mobility from Tzeentch, because Melkoth's is going to wreck their Cynagors and their Horsemen, pop their shields, get them low if they don't have the shield up. Flock of Doom is also pretty good. Lure of Dark Magic can even be strong, even if it's not on a character, because Soul Stealer just does so much damage to single entities, and Tzeentch has a lot of really expensive single entities that they bring. And Death Magic can even be good. Because in this matchup, you've got Spirit Leech for big stuff, and then Fate of Buna is really good on the Centaurs, right? So that's how you can beat them. I seriously would recommend just a bunch of Scourge Runner Chariots. Preferably like a couple in the opening. Maybe keep one in reserve. And they do two things. They kill the big targets of Tzeentch very efficiently. They, like, outshoot the Changebringers very comfortably. Changebringers are a very short-range unit in 90. They do a bunch of damage, but Scourge Runners do so much damage on the way in that the Changebringers should never get in position to be able to shoot them down. You can go cheap in the front line, so if your opponent goes with a bunch of blues and pinks, you've got silver shields or heavy armor with like the Black Ark Corsairs to just withstand the fire. Witch Elves, I wouldn't really bring Witch Elves against Tzeentch. They're going to be really weak to stuff like pink fire and blue fire, as well as all of the units, just because of the magic damage that's on everything. You don't need that many Cold One Knights here, probably just a couple, and then like Dark Riders. Crows of Cain can be another good aerial unit to kind of keep the Changebringers under control. Because your opponent has to shoot these down. Changebringers, if they get caught once by the Crows of Cain, just get absolutely annihilated by these things. What else do you want? K-Knight Assassins. This is another good matchup for a K-Knight Assassin. You can bring all the abilities if you want, but I would recommend just doing Web of Shadows. And maybe the Black Lotus. I mean, it does imbue Discouraged, which is Honestly, pretty damn strong against demon factions, because demonic instability is so painful. Once you get a demon unit crumbling, it's very rare that they're going to be able to, you know, stiffen the leadership back up enough before they take so much damage that they just disintegrate out. You've also got handbows who can be situationally okay, but you do have a lot of 360 shooting, as you can see already. Might not be able to fit them in, unfortunately. But if you want, you can cut the assassin to get a couple of those guys. Just go cheap and wide, and your cheap and wide stuff should be enough to be able to take down both the chaff of Tzeentch and also their more expensive options. Provided you're backing it up with the Scourge Runners. If there are any Dark Elf mains who want to, like, take it away, then, you can help out Prod a little bit. Shouldn't have picked Empire, because I heard they were hard to play. I would just stick with Empire. They're a little bit tough to play, but they are a really good faction. They're just very micro-dependent. Like I said, in campaign, you can kind of throw out plenty of stuff, and you get lots of buffs from skill trees that cover up for weaknesses of units that in multiplayer are just always there. With time on the Empire, you'll get to a point where you'll realize just how strong they are. Empire has pretty even matchups into most everybody. Being the jack-of-all-trades faction, I think is really nice, because they may not be the easiest faction to learn for a new player. If you just stick with them and get them under your belt and you just take the lumps and learn from it all, it'll give you a really solid fundamental grasp on how to play Kite, as well as even more like elite builds. If you go with like more expensive lords and maybe like great swords and Nolan Ironsides and units like that, you'll be very good at protecting your backline with knights, and you'll know how to use heavy cavalry as well as support with magic as well. There's a lot there. Use more chariots, don't have the good macro, they're often caught. Well, the thing about the Scourge Runner chariots is they have such long range, you can use them behind your front line. You don't even need to send them in all that much against Tzeentch. Really, you just use Scourge Runners to like move them forward, shoot down any big targets. Tzeentch tries to then catch them, and then you move your infantry into place to buffer for the chariots, and you just dunk on Tzeentch at that stage. There's not a lot they can do about it. Alright, let's get into a replay. We're going to get Tommy next. He's been waiting for a minute here. And we'll get in, and we'll see what he can do against the Vampire Counts. Or Vampire Coast, I should say. And Rek is not playing Cathay. Rek is on the coast today. And bring in Depth Guard, wow. In the opening, too. I do love Depth Guard. They're a very powerful unit. Even the dual infantry, or dual weapon infantry variant can be very effective. I do prefer polearms a little bit more, just because the large, the anti-large bonus on the polearms is so substantial, and they still have good generalist stats. Where is this unit? What the hell are they? Oh, they're in the tree over here. Okay. So yeah, the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard, I mean, you see the 62 melee attack, 54 melee defense, with good weapon strength. This is the ROR. The standard polearm stats are a little worse, but not that much. Just a -10, -10. You compare it to a regular Depth Guard who clear out chaff very efficiently, but don't trade great into mobility.
Victory point. Keep it from the foe.
I prefer cheaper dual weapons to expensive dual weapons, generally speaking. Cheaper dual weapon infantry value trade a little bit better in my experience, and more elite AP halberds, I think are a little bit more impactful overall, because right now domination mode does tend to favor mobility a little bit, which means like cavalry can be a big problem, and Vampire Coast doesn't have a lot of counters to cavalry other than shooting. So having the polearm Depth Guard on the field early can be really nice, so you don't just get bullied by cycle charges. or just like mobile skirmish cav. Because at the very least, like, the depth guard being around prevents them from getting too crazy into the back line, because you can then surround with scurvy dogs and then send your polearms in to maybe finish off some of the skirmish cav that get caught. It's a little hard to pull off, but it is something you can do. Archaon is moving up. You can see big damage going down on a lot of the Vampire Coast units from the Soul of Damnation, which is very powerful. It's a great unit. It's very hard to shut down at times. I would say that Rhett could bring in a Carronade. Carronades can kill the Soul of Damnation pretty quickly. It's always good to have something that can kill the Soul of Damnation at the very least. You don't want to leave it to just shoot all game. Because even if it's shooting, or even in matchups like this, where your opponent's got, like, units that are fairly spread out, so the shots on the Soul of Damnation aren't nearly as effective, and they're all pretty cheap units, there's almost always something for the Soul to shoot at, and right now it's kind of bullying Noctilus. You can see him taking quite a bit of damage from it. He avoids most of the damage from that shot, but a couple others have hit very square. Beautiful Burning Head on these handguns, roasting them pretty viciously. Losing almost half their HP in one go. Noctilus does get back in the trees. Little bit of an overextend. Oh, but the Scurvy Dogs are here. Hell yeah.
You have the foe's victory point.
Okay, so one Marauder Horseman being chased out of here by the Scurvy Dogs. Bloody Reaver Depth Guard do get up on the point, but they're a little lonely. You want to use them to like clear out enemy mobility when possible, but just chasing them out in the open field usually isn't a very good situation for them. They're better for just keeping your opponent away from your backline, in my opinion. Oh man, Archaon's getting pounded here, and that was a beautiful Pit of Shades back here. That was an overcast Pit of Shades, almost one-shotting the Chaos Warrior Halberds. Noctilus and Archaon are scrapping in here. It's dangerous for both of them. So here's the thing. Archaon loves sniping characters like Noctilus. Noctilus is pretty respectable as a duelist against horsebound characters like this, though. He also has the hunger, and you can bring Invocation of Nehek with Noctilus to heal him up if you need to. Archaon doesn't have any heals, so him being sent into the backline here, without all of the missiles being shut down, ends up being a bit of a mistake. Gotta be very self-preserving with Archaon in this matchup. Really, against the Vampire Coast, as the Warriors of Chaos, your priority is to use Burning Head to kill as many of the handguns in the backline, and just use your Marauders in the front to grind down the deckhand mobs a little bit. If you get a good chance to burn out deckhand mobs with Burning Head, you should take it. And then try and play a very skirmishy and mobile aggression type of style up onto the flanks. You want to just, like, control the outside objectives, or whichever two objectives the Vampire Coast aren't playing on. You don't really want to take a huge engagement into their front line early. You want to try and wear it down so that when you do engage with your mobile units, you can break through a lot quicker. And then hopefully you've killed some of the handguns with Burning Head. Because Archaon has 150 meter cast range on Burning Head, and the handguns are not going to be able to get a shot off on them if you micro him really well, getting in position to use it. And it casts quickly enough that these slow zombie units are not going to be able to move out of the way in time. You might get a little unlucky with Burning Head on occasion in this matchup, and that can, you know, maybe lose you momentum, and maybe even the game, depending on how often it rotates out of shooting units. But leaning back on it is definitely the way to go. I would avoid bringing Hounds, too. Hounds suck against Undead, because they are not immune to the fear, and they've only got 38 leadership, right? So if you're losing 8 leadership on a unit that only has 38 base, yeah, not very good. especially if you lose your Lord. I would just forego them. Hounds are just bad nowadays. Like, back in Warhammer 2, Hound units were indispensable. Because units were, generally speaking, a little bit less strong in melee. And the Hounds were pretty annoying. The only Hounds that are good anymore are, like, the undead versions. Like, Direwolves and Scurvy Dogs tend to be alright. The Chaos Warhounds and the Wolf Rats, you can maybe bring one just to chase stuff, but that's about it. I would not be bringing multiple onto the field. Because they'll just never value trade for you. Like, these ones here got 200 value. And you got 326 here. It's honestly not terrible for them, but it's just, it's never gonna be good enough. Slaughter Guard are sitting in the forest. I see what you're talking about with the Mist Summon. It's not horrible, though. You could use the Slaughter Guard to get up on the number 1. And they could sit out there. They'd be a little in danger from the handguns, but the handguns would have to maneuver over to shoot at the Slaughter Guard, and you can always pull back with them, I guess. There's just a huge loss of momentum for the Warriors, and losing Archaon is really about the worst situation that can happen for you against the Vampire Coast. If you lose your Lord against the Vampire Coast, especially an expensive one like Archaon, you're kind of cooked because your leadership being debuffed and then all of your units being affected by fear. That's a lot of leadership malices stacking up immediately. I mean, it's a minus 18 that's perpetual now. And it's a minus 24 when the Lord is freshly killed, which obviously is even worse. Really nice Wraithstorm and Pit of Shades. Slaughter Guard got massacred by that. Oh my god. And the Deck Dropper handguns did kill the Soul of Damnation, which is kind of crazy. I did not expect that. You can see the shaft and balls at rest there. R.I.P. Now the handguns are just gonna annihilate everything that comes into range now. They've gotten good value across the board, doubling up, almost tripling for a couple of them. Black Spot's almost doubled up. The handguns have a little bit of ways to go before they triple their cost. They do cost 550 gold. This is why Burning Head's so good against them, because they're 550 gold each, and they have no armor, and they've got a lot less HP than the deckhand mobs. They've got a full 4,500 less health, with 40 fewer models as well. They're kind of vulnerable. If you get rid of the shooting and then you just leave the melee infantry to get cleaned up by your better quality units, the Warriors of Chaos honestly aren't going to lose this matchup too often. Hellstriders grinding down some units. Hellstriders are also really good in this matchup because they beat up Mournguls pretty capably. Hellstriders did get a little bit of a nerf, though, so they may not be quite as cost-effective. Another thing is that they're ITP all the time. So, of course, Mournguls never getting to Terror out them is also really strong. Probably still want to max out on Hellstriders if I'm really thinking about it objectively, though. Really good Melkoths going down here. One of the better direct damage spells in the game. Big value against those Hellstriders. We've seen 2 good Pit of Shades from Noctis as well. He's got 1,700 value. He's alive. Slaughter Guard getting poked down. Another Wraithstorm? Yeah, Wraithstorm coming down. Gonna do a little bit of damage to these guys. It's pretty effective against infantry. It's actually less good against single entities now. It's a little funny because this still says it's strong versus a single unit. Or I guess it doesn't say character. Did they change that tooltip? Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I've seen it in the past do really good damage to single entities, but for whatever reason it doesn't seem to hit single entities very accurately anymore. It's very good against infantry nowadays, so against the Slaughter Guard, it's kind of perfectly suited. Did get him about 200 more value. And that's going to be a very nice cleanup from Wreck there.
Unending glory is yours.
Very, very clean Vampire Coast. For Warriors of Chaos, just be a little bit more patient before going in. I think you'll be fine. It's a very aggressive early attack into consolidated like gun line information. That just doesn't feel very good. You know, Undead really do want you to kind of like grind into their front line while they shoot you down. Like, you do need to clear out the deckhand mobs at some point, and you want to use your Marauders to do that. But you do want to try and use your infantry to try and push around the flank a little bit, and I don't really think halberds are going to be able to do much of anything for you. They're too vulnerable to shooting. They're also 850 gold, so if they get shot by like a carronade, or hit by bomber mobs, or deck dropper handguns, stuff like that, they're gonna bleed a lot of value against you. I would bring, like, this is a good matchup for just plain old Chaos Warriors. Or, even better, you bring Aspiring Champions. Because Aspiring Champions annihilate deckhand mobs. They also brutalize Sirens. They hold their own against Night Terrors. It takes a long time to break down Aspiring Champions in melee. Deckhand mobs are okay against Aspiring Champions, but there's a lot of armor for the champs as well. And they soak up a lot of damage with their silver shields from handguns and stuff. And then you can use your Marauders to push around the flanks a little bit more. They can maybe get up into the back line. And the Soul of Damnation's okay against the Vampire Coast, but I do think that all you really need is the Fire Magic from Archeon. And Searing Doom's not bad either. And just bring lots of Forsaken, some Hellstriders. I don't know if you need the Rotting Riders and the Slaughter Guard. I would pick one or the other. And I'd get rid of all the Hounds. Hounds are good for chasing stuff down. You never get to do that against Undead, so avoid them at all costs. Because that's 1,350 gold. That's functionally only ever going to get like 800 value for you in a pinch. There's more effective units that you could be bringing in. What do we want to see next? Could watch Bagosh into the Demons of Chaos. I haven't seen them in forever. Is there anybody in here, though, who's advocating for stuff? For certain replays? No. Okay. Yeah, the Slaughter Guard are also really slow. Don't think your opponents here can't find their at and they haven't responded. Okay. Let Gepard know. Reaper. Because Gepard is adminning the tournament. And he can set you up with the win there. Just go to the Discord channel for the new player tournaments and ping the admin. Because I can't actually do anything on the back end. I'm not allowed. If it were on Total Tavern, I could just quickly do it, but not for Challenge. Download more replays. We've got tons of replays. Thank you for sending them in. As always, I'll do my very best to get them all done. Hopefully, there aren't a bunch more random updates, because CA has been dropping small hotfixes, and they keep breaking all the replays, so it's not giving me a lot of time to work with, because it does take quite a while to work through them all. I'm going to do my very best here, though, because we shouldn't be getting one this week. Challenge is just a little bit more responsive, is my understanding. Total Tavern is great. It's really awesome for consolidating the leaderboard and making it very easy to keep track of tournament wins and everything. For the new player tournaments, though, they get really big, and then it takes a long time for the back end to load, and that's really frustrating to have to deal with all the time. That's why we're using Challenge for the new player tournaments. Otherwise, it would be Total Tavern. When it's like 40 plus people and you're constantly having to open it up and mess around with it, and there's a big load on the servers, they are just horrendously slow to load up. All right, yeah. What is your name in game, Reaper? Because people's names are always different between all of the different, you know, social medias. I also don't think you've sent me any, because I haven't really even seen any Empire in here, have I? Now I'm thinking about it. Oh, we got Melkor, but I know that's not you. I know who Melkor is. Send me your replays, and I'll coach you up a little bit. I'm not the most experienced Empire player in the world, but I've got a pretty good grasp of them. Same as this. Did you drop any in the Discord, though? 'Cause I don't think I've seen any replays from you. If you don't know how to post replays, I've got a YouTube video that I can link you. Oh, here you are. Give me 1 second, dude, and I'm going to link you the video so you know how to leave replays with people. Because it's not just, like, out-and-out intuitive. It does require a little bit of, like, maybe not, like, super technical know-how, but a little bit of Windows soul-searching, if that makes any sense. Oh, there we go. Alright, I think I DM'd you on Discord, dude. So just go through the steps that you see on the screen there in that video, and then just send them to me, and I'll cover them for you. Your High Elf game? Okay, I'm down for it. Where it at? Oh, I got a bunch of replays I need to drop in here. It's probably in there. Okay. People mixing up the factions, which is really nice to see, because Lucreon was playing a lot of Vampire Coast, and is playing some High Elves this time around. So Tommy coming in here, no halberds this time. 2 Hellstriders in the opening, 2 Marauder Horsemen, Soul of Damnation, Archaeon. All the items in the world. The items are okay. I do disagree on a fundamental basis with bringing Armor of Morcar, but I've seen it work sometimes. There's just so many ways to get around Armor of Morcar. Like, you just leave fights if it activates, or you just, you know, never engage Archaeon to begin with. You just, like, Arcane and Forging or Spirit Leech him to death. And you have the Arcane Phoenix up in the sky with Eltharion. Soul of Damnation gets a mediocre hit in against the Arcane Phoenix. It's going to be kind of hard to kill that thing. Your opponent's positioning very aggressively into your backline here to try and take it down. Get the Hellstriders back over here and get the Horsemen here too. Because the dive's going to come in, and it's going to do some pretty horrible damage. And I think the Vortex might even kill these guys. So the Arcane Phoenix has Ember Storm, which is a very powerful Vortex. It does a ton of damage. The power of Ember Storm has kind of turned me on to using them overall. Just period. I think they're a great unit. And they don't kill the crew. They do a decent amount of damage, though. And the Arcane Phoenix does land in here. Doesn't want to stay too long, because Archaon is right next to him. Does get a really good shot in there. Apotheosis comes down. And the heal rate debuffed a little bit because of the flaming attacks that Archaon has, but Arcane Phoenix is looking alright. It gets back up in the air. Should be able to follow up on the Soul of Damnation at some point here. Actually going to go right back in. Archaon is a little out of position. These Illyrian Reaver Archers are more annoying than anything else. Just tons of hounds again. I just fundamentally don't like hound units. I just never enjoy their performance. They can't catch skirmishers anymore. They don't even beat skirmishers. They get run over by everything on the charge as well. Hounds would straight up lose to an Illyrian Reaver on the charge. Like, if the Illyrian Reavers don't even need to run away, they could just run over and flatten the hound units. It's when they're running away that the hounds are going to be able to do damage to them anyways. Eltharion and the Phoenix, while they did kill the Soul of Damnation crew, brutal stuff. On the Burning Head, rotating into the Marauders at the end here, roasting their own guys, man. Brutal. Lucrion's front line fight is going pretty decently. I mean, the Spearmen and the White Lions should be able to either hold the line or just straight up out-trade the Marauders. Now, Marauders are just a very solid chaff unit, but at the end of the day, don't offer anything spectacular in terms of performance. They're there to, like, get their value back, or maybe a little bit extra of an up-trade, and just be, you know, something that your opponent has to work through. It's not really anything to support them, though. And again, losing the Soul of Damnation is just such a massive penalty against you. That is a beautiful Ember Storm as well. Oh my god, dude. The Hellstrider's getting folded up right now. Brutal stuff, man. You gotta be careful with the Arcane Phoenixes on the field, man. You cannot blob up on the High Elves units, because you just get macerated by those vortexes. And you do get Eltharion very caught up back here, though. I mean, he's really not been able to escape. And you are finally getting a bit of a value lead. And while the frontline fight didn't go great for you, you do have a pretty good like opportunity to trade in the late game here with your superior speed that's out and available for you. Especially considering the Rotting Riders are available now. If you can kill Eltharion, you've got a very healthy Archaon. I didn't even notice he took no damage. Oh my god. So you got a super healthy Archaon. You got a very, very, very healthy Rotting Rider here. Hounds attacking the Illyrian Reaver Archers and just bouncing off. Not surprising at all. Again. Like, I wish Hounds were good, but they're just so bad that it's never worth bringing them. Like I said, you bring one if you want to chase stuff off with them. Because they are fast enough to be able to chase things down. Like, a 450 gold unit chasing something off the battlefield is way better than dedicating, like, you know, a Fireborn to chase something off the battlefield. You know, that's where they can help out a little bit. It's getting real scary for the High Elves. They've got a bunch of terror-causing units just flattening over the very overexposed White Lions now. Many did lose a very important piece early, but traded the opponent at the end of the day by catching the Lord in the back line. Killing him. And now, this is exactly what I was thinking might happen. The White Lions just get bulldozed over by the mobility. And now the value trade's looking very solid. Like, the Marauders have been here, and they've done a little bit of damage. Nothing tremendous, but some of them are still hanging around. They could even go for the back objective with these tattered remains. Force some of the high elf units have to rotate up to the number 1. And then just cycle charge everything else to death. And you know, the Fireborn are a great unit, but outnumbered. Not just... Look, not only are they outnumbered in terms of, like, Hellstriders and Rotting Riders attacking them all at the same time, there's also Archaon in here. And Archaon with his solid stats and weapon strength is going to be able to take down, like, 2 or 3 Fireborn at a time, and they are not going to be able to hold up to all of that. This is a great unit, but look, like, these guys have gotten caught. Like, there's no escaping with them now. The Hellstriders have 100 speed. The second that they make contact with the Fireborn, they debuff their speed so much that there's no longer any way for them to outrun any of these units. They just have to stay here and fight now. This is a massive win for the Warriors of Chaos, and a beautiful Searing Doom to follow it up. Oh my god. Oh no. Oof. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's just painful, man. I mean, it's an 1,850 gold unit that is being chased off now, with a whopping total of 162 value. Absolutely savage, man. Beautiful Burning Head. Rotting Riders just out trading all of the High Elf stuff. That's going to be a GG. If the High Elves don't lose Eltharion back there, if Eltharion just escapes, the High Elves would probably have been fine. They'd have had magic support for the Fireborn, been able to heal them with Apotheosis, maybe gotten another Ember Storm with the Arcane Phoenix. You wouldn't have all these leadership problems and all the terror routes as well. White Lions of Trace are kind of a garbage unit, in my experience, unfortunately. They are very bad at value trading. I have no idea why they're so terrible, but they just are. I would avoid them with a passion. I would not bring White Lions of Trace. You're honestly better off with just more spearmen and a bunch of regular old archers. I know Burning Head is a big threat and you want to avoid it, and having the White Lions have some armor is good. But yeah, maybe if they stick around a little bit longer and they don't get run over by the terror-causing units, they could have gotten more value, but as it stands, that's kind of their issue, right? Like, they are this 800 gold unit that has no way to mitigate any kind of leadership effects on them. And it just wrecks them. They falter so quickly when they get attacked by big scary stuff, like the Rotting Riders and Archaon. Because their leadership really isn't even all that good, honestly. The hell of the High Elves. Ba, 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 ba. There they are. 75 is good, you know? And their stats on paper with the martial prowess look impressive. But their weapon strength is really kind of low. And they don't have any kind of, like, specialization against large or infantry, so they just kind of get left out in the cold with a small HP pool. That doesn't really do a whole lot for them. And their missile resistance is nice, but not that great against most factions. Especially against Chaos factions. Like, the Soul of Damnation still does a ton of damage to, like, kill entities on White Lions of Trace. And then you're not really getting a whole lot of use out of your White Lions if they're just, like, constantly getting shot by Marauder Horsemen. Resisting 30% of that damage is fine, but it's not really gaining you much of anything. Let's watch, I think this is it. Let's watch Reaper play against Hugs here. See what we can get going with the Empire. I already see a couple of campaign pitfalls here. We'll get into them though. We'll do it. We'll get into the army picking after the game. So Karl Franz is a really good lord. Very, very powerful flying character. I honestly think that he could work against Cathay. I have to be very careful with him because Cathay does have a lot of really good like shooting units that can do some big damage to a flying character like Karl Franz. But if he gets in with Gall Miraz popped, and you know, Blood Roar passively affecting all the infantry, he can get some terror routes as long as those war drums are no longer active and up. I love the inclusion of the engineer. These guys are absolutely disgusting at range. They trade so well. They're super accurate with the repeater rifle as well. Unless you're actively dodging the shots from the engineer, all 6 of these rounds are going to hit. And they will do the full damage. I mean, they do 80 damage with each shot per volley, mind you. So if all 6 shots hit, theoretically, if your unit had no armor, they're going to take 600 damage from that. With armor, they're going to take about 480, which is pretty horrible. You know, it can wear your units out pretty fast. Franz taking some shots from the Lord Magistrate here. Going after the Sky Junk. I actually don't hate the Sky Junk here. So inaccurate, though. My god, man. Sky Junks should have, like, 2 of these rockets on them. I don't know how you would fit it on here, but either that or just make it more accurate. Sky Junks can work, but they can be a little bit mediocre. They need the harmony as well. So their reload skill is better. And again, they miss another shot. They've got very limited ammo. Only 20 volleys. They need all 20 of those shots to be hitting for it to do well. If you bring a lot of artillery, then you're playing for value. What you really need to focus on doing with the mortars is make sure you're hitting the more bunched up formation here. Like, your opponent is not doing themselves any favors by spreading out here. Like, they've got all their infantry very bunched up. Both mortars just focusing on shooting the Celestial Dragon crossbows right now is the best option for you. They've got 95 armor. Mortars don't have a ton of AP, but they've got enough to be able to slowly wear those guys out, especially if enough shots are hitting on these very compact formations. They can very quickly kill them. Shooting flyers with mortars, I mean, you'd be surprised that mortars can actually do damage to flyers, but it's not good. It's not enough. You definitely want your mortars hitting these more stationary units right here. Press spacebar as well. And if you click on your enemy's units, you can see their firing arc as well. You can see where they reach out to. You don't need to move up, really. The only thing that the Empire needs to do in the early game here is hold on to one objective. And the best thing you can do on these split pushing maps are maps where you've got all 3 objectives lined up in the middle of the battlefield. If you're going artillery heavy, you're not corner camping, because you can't do that in domination mode, but you're trying to, like, cut off avenues of approach as much as possible. Like, you want to turn your formation to make this number 3 point your home objective, basically. Like, you want to position your artillery back here with your main formation of infantry up on the number 3 here, with a couple units holding this flank so that your opponent can't get in on the vanguard easily. And just use your artillery to hammer your opponent on the middle objective while you build up more troops, and then you solid push all in one go to take that middle objective. And you should theoretically be value trading against your opponent pretty effectively. You just have to protect your artillery. you can't just count on your opponent not knowing how to get back here, you know? Like, one peasant horseman has already killed a great cannon, and that's not even counting, like, Onyx Crowmen and Jade Lancers and all the other tools Grand Cathay can use to get into the backfield. One halberd is not enough to protect all 3 cannons. Honestly, this isn't even enough infantry to protect all these missiles. Typically, the composition for protecting artillery lines and missile lines alike is a 2-to-1. So if you've got 3 artillery pieces, you need 6 infantry to protect these guys. You can do it with 5 if you are very careful about your positioning. But generally speaking, you just want, like, 1 shielding each of the artillery pieces. You need a unit on the flanks. And then you want something mobile in reserve to stop anything that's trying to loop all the way around. As artillery does not turn very responsively to hit threats that's out here on the flank. If you've got all this stuff back here, like protecting the artillery, then having a bunch of missiles as well is maybe a little bit of an overinvestment. You're doing okay.
Tidings. The enemy has captured one of your victory points.
You are focus firing pretty well with the crossbows. Shot down a peasant long spear. You're doing a pretty good job of wearing out the Celestial Dragon Guard here as well. The Hellstorm rocket battery is doing some decent damage. I do think that there are some better options for the Empire, though, for this matchup than what you've got here. I'll show them off. Another thing you don't have is a caster. You've got no way to heal Carl Franz. You've got no way to force your opponent's units to, like, respect your artillery position. Like, they just keep running around in the back line and forcing your halberds out of position, and then they end up jumping on them while your halberds are, like, slowly trundling forward. Like, this peasant horseman has killed 2 artillery pieces, and that should never happen. If you had something like a light wizard with net of Ammontok, all you need to do is net the horsemen and then, like, countercharge them, or net the horsemen with net of Ammontok and use the crossbows to just shoot them down in the open field. Outriders looking to get into position. I did see something dying out here in the number 1. I don't know what it is. That's a Pistolier. Pistoliers are a really good unit, but they can't just sit on an objective and hold it. They're a skirmish unit, so you need to be very active moving them around. This is a very, very high micro formation. That's not synergizing very well with itself. Like, the crossbows don't really do anything for you to protect your artillery and just, you know, become another thing that you have to cover up with your formation. Grand Cathay's not really punishing you all that well. They probably could have stood to build up a little bit more. They've took a lot of the artillery down. They do still have quite a few crossbows, and they've got some Celestial Dragon Guards as well. Look at the Hellstorm rocket battery as opposed to the Sky Junk. The Sky Junk has been awful this game. It's got 500 value. It's been firing all game. The Hellstorm rocket battery in half the time is 1200 value. It gets some collateral damage on the Onyx Crowmen as the Onyx Crowmen collapse in, but they are probably going to kill that artillery piece. You don't have any supplies in the bank. Heavy cavalry are your best tool for running Onyx Crowmen down. Onyx Crowmen very squishy to heavy cavalry charges because they have 15 armor. A heavy cavalry like an Empire Knight coming out right now and running down these Onyx Crowmen would be a huge win for you because you uncrew the artillery piece and run away with the crew while the heavy knights kill the Onyx Crowmen. Then you bring the crew back and you get back on the artillery pieces and continue to value trade. Like, you aren't doing terrible in the value department, but your front line is folded up. You lost Karl Franz trying to kill the Lord Magistrate. You don't need to kill the Sky Lanterns. You don't even need to worry about the Sky Junk, really. if you want to kill the Sky Junk, you already had the perfect unit. You had a cannon. Cannon shoots the Sky Junk, and the mortars shoot the infantry. And then Karl Franz can just sit back here and try and protect the artillery with a few infantry. And then you shoot down the Sky Junk. You can maybe shoot down the Lord Magistrate. Use your crossbows to shoot your opponent's missiles with the mortars chipping in damage on all of those Jade crossbows. And you just leave your infantry to, like, slowly build up. You get more and more state troopers out, and then you go for the caps. And make sure you hold on to 1 point. Don't ever let yourself get triple capped. I'm a very firm believer in that. Some people would say it's okay to get triple capped early if you're going for a build-up strategy. I disagree thoroughly. I think it's always a terrible idea. If your opponent wants to scrap against you on one objective, then you'll always be at a slight advantage because you don't need to press the other points. Your opponent wants to hang on to them, so they either keep reserve infantry back there, or they don't, and then you can bring out something cheap to threaten a cap, and your opponent then has to bring something back over. You can always reposition then. It just gives you more time to value trade. You're going for a cap now. Empire Knights taking a fight against the Jade Lancers. Good protection on the Outriders. You need to make sure that when you give skirmish units orders that you run far enough away with them. Lots of people are not always watching super closely to engagements like this. So their attack orders are like set on the Outriders. So their Jade Lancers are still trying to push through the Empire Knights. You can see some of the Jade Lancers are through already. They're still attacking the Outriders. If the Outriders have an order to run all the way back here, then the Jade Lancers are chasing all the way back here. So the formation gets super split up. So they have like Jade Lancers all the way out here, and then a bunch getting killed by the Empire Knights here. Because what happens is this section of the Jade Lancer unit isn't fighting these Empire Knights. What they're trying to do is push through, and they're just taking free damage as they're trying to get back there onto the Outriders. And the Outriders are like all the way up here, being buffered by infantry at that point. Then you get really good trades against your opponent. Sky Junk still doing incredibly mid damage. It's almost out of ammo too. I mean, my god, dude. This is a 1,500 gold unit with 800 value. Are you kidding me? This is why I ignore them. Like, you might think Sky Junks are kind of scary, but they really are quite terrible. They're way too expensive. They don't do enough damage. They're not accurate. They fire slow as hell. They don't provide cap weight. They don't really do anything for Harmony either. And the Eye of the Dragon is just a useless ability. Like, the 4 leadership is okay, but forest spotting just doesn't do anything for you. If units are in forests, like, I guess you can spot them a little easier, but these things are so slow. And you're never going to get in position to use the junk bomb. I've never seen a Sky Junk get value out of their bombing run. Oh my god. I'm going to throw up. If I have to watch the Sky Junk whiff another shot, I'm going to call CA. And tell them that my dad works for Nintendo and that they're all fired. I don't even know what to say about it. Crane Gunner sitting back here being protected. You can see this is kind of what you needed to be doing. Like, your opponent has the Peasant Long Spear out in front, catching your Engineer up in them, with the Crane Gunner safely behind. They've got a flying unit that's shutting down the range pressure, and the Crane Gunners should be shooting the Empire Knights. You can see them wheeling. Get a really good volley off. Your opponent does have a little bit in the bank. They could definitely get a Jade Lancer out to finish off the Empire Knight. This is generally what your missile positions should look like in terms of protection. You've got an infantry unit to buffer. You've got a fast response unit. You probably want like one more infantry unit, I guess, but you don't have to have it, especially if you've got supplies in the bank and it's very close to the spawns. Now your opponent's got too many missiles on the field. They'll be able to break back your infantry. As long as they're trickling in one at a time. They just can't close the gap against all the crossbows. They're too lightly armored, and the shields, they're okay. Like, bronze shields are fine. Silver shields are what really provide the protection for infantry. a bronze shield with light armor is just not enough against this much. And these are fairly broken down crossbows, mind you. They're really not doing nearly as much damage as they could be. You see the mortar still doing decent. It's taken forever to get its value back, though. Considering the fact that you brought the Hellstorm Battery, I would cut the mortars out of the opener. Cut the mortars out of the opener and bring the Hellstorm Battery and just the cannon. And then your formation's fine. And make sure you have a caster, a life caster to like heal Karl Franz so you can take aggressive attacks like this. So if you can kill the Lord Magistrate without Karl Franz getting killed, that's great for you. Look at that. Are you kidding me? The Kite of the Uttermost Airs. And the janky... Oh my god, man. Janky flying combat incoming, man. This is why flying lords can be a little terrible sometimes. Because for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how much you outspeed your opponent, if they're flying away, sometimes your units just don't want to hit them. It's the first time I've seen Karl Franz actually get an attack in quite a minute. I mean, he's literally touching this thing. Here we go, finally gets another hit. And all this time, though, he's taking a bunch of damage. And mind you, Karl is like, what, 2,500 gold compared to the Lord Magistrate, who, even on the Sky Lantern, which costs like 300 gold, is, I think, 1,200 with what he had, toolkit-wise. So if you lose Karl Franz, even if you kill the Lord Magistrate, it's still a down trade. I wouldn't even bother with it, like I said. Just use your ranged advantage with all the artillery a little bit more. Try and force Cathay off the points. Force him to summon a bunch of artillery in for, like, trying to take the artillery duel. And just build up and try and shoot down as many of your enemy's units as possible. Because that Hellstorm Battery was getting you back in the game, but then you left it way too open and then it died. And then you were right back to being in a really horrible spot in terms of your build into Cathay. One last thing is that chevrons really just aren't doing anything for you. Never, ever, ever put chevrons on stuff unless you have like 50 gold or like 75 gold left. All it's going to do is gives your units some slight stat increases, but nothing that's breaking the game. It's not enough to improve their performance markedly. And when you try to resummon these units in, they're just going to be more expensive. If you get chevrons by value trading in-game, the unit does not get more expensive when you summon it in, and it still keeps the chevron. You should just try to value trade better with your units that you have. It's a nice little bonus. And again, the Hellstorm Battery early. Get rid of the double mortar. Royal Altdorf Griffites, good answer. You do have the Empire Knights back here. One of them got the value. Zentler's Reichsguard, I don't hate. The Outriders are alright. Same with the Pistoliers. I'm gonna pull you over to the army screen, and I'll build something that I think would be a little bit better against Grand Cathay, honestly. Like I said, Karl Franz can work here. I'd bring the Reichland Runefang as well. It's just such a good buff. It lasts 39 seconds. And it gives 24 melee attack and 8 leadership, which is really strong. I mean, this is a very good buff, not just for Karl to use on himself, but also for all of the other units that you got on the field. Gal Maraz is just his straight-up, I'm buffing myself and nobody else ability, and that's also really good. But he's 2,300 gold, and now you're pigeonholing yourself into needing a caster to heal him up. So if you're not healing Karl Franz, he's probably going to get shot to death in that matchup. You can do the same thing with Karl Franz, but on a budget by bringing Boris Todbringer. And Boris is really good because he also has Crush the Weak, in addition to Blood Roar. What that's doing, we gotta put him on the Griffin. you're lowering leadership by 8, and then also by another 4 as leadership gets below 50% values, and with the terror that Boris causes, you're getting better terror routes. And you bring the Midland Runefang, and he heals himself passively. You don't need anything else at that point. White Cloak of Ulrich can also be really good. 2200 for a much more sustainable Lord without any extra cost for like a mage to support him is awesome. Because now, instead of bringing a life caster who's only healing 1 unit, you can bring something like a metal caster and drop Searing Doom on your opponent all game. And Searing Doom combo with Plague of Rust, very powerful. You don't use Plague of Rust and then use Searing Doom. You just use Searing Doom to like hammer enemy missile units from safety. Searing Doom does tons of damage to missile troops that are very tightly bunched up. You can use it on cavalry fights where it also does good damage. Plague of Rust you can use to combo with Empire Knight charges so that your units hammer home a little more effectively. There's obviously a lack of AP on the Empire Knights. If you overcast Plague of Rust, you're lowering the armor by 60 on stuff like Jade Lancers, who... Where's Cathay? Oh yeah, they're Grand Cathay. Okay. So Jade Lancers have 100 armor. That's more than enough to survive most of the base weapon damage from an Empire Knight. But with Plague of Rust lowering their armor by 60, Jade Lancers suddenly only have 40 armor. They'll get absolutely folded up by an Empire Knight at that point. It's great damage. It's very cost-effective value for you as well. And again, Boris just can fly around and keep healing, and he'll healing cap that passive. Point 2 is great passive healing. You really have to fumble characters that have passives that scale up this much healing before they're going off the field, usually. You know, you get all the swordsmen, you can get the crossbows if you want, but do you need crossbows over archers? Yeah, I guess because it's Jade Warriors. It's not a bad idea. They are pretty cheap, but I would just bring the Hellstorm rocket battery. It's not even, it's 1050 gold as opposed to 1300 for 2 mortars. It's doing way more damage anyways. Stick with that and the single cannon. And try to have maybe a Hochland long rifle wouldn't be bad to have either. Because the Hochlands can shoot peasant horsemen and enemy cavalry that might be trying to get up into the midfield. And then you can allocate some spears to protect those guys. What do you want spears-wise? Yeah, just like 3 spears. You got a nice wide front line now. You got enough melee troops here to protect the crossbows and the Hochlands, as well as allocate like 1 unit each to defend the great cannons, backed up by the Empire Knights coming out of reserve. You'll do very well. Outriders are okay, but if you really want good AP missiles, just bring War Wagons. They're better armored, they're harder to kill, and they do just as much damage, and they're way more accurate. They are an absolute nightmare unit. I love War Wagons. War Wagons are just as good as the Engineers at long range, in my opinion. You can still mix the Engineer in, because, again, he is very cost-effective, but you don't have to have him. Royal Altar of Gryphites in reserve. Good option. I like having a greatsword. Cathay has lots of armored infantry, so having like 1 greatsword to maybe get out there and hold their own on a point can work out for you. Grenade launchers are a really good infantry killing piece. I highly recommend them. And lots of Free Company Militia. Free Company Militia are super cheap. Their pistols do pretty good damage to stuff like Onyx Crowmen. They're a decent hybrid melee fighter. They're not amazing at any one thing, but if you just let them shoot and then also occasionally fight in combat and support them decently, they will uptrade pretty tremendously for you. And the Sterling's Revenge are just outright good. Oh, and you got more than enough here to like press the points. Hammer against enemy mobility. Also protect more of your missiles because you can just flood the field with shooting at this point. And you should be able to outtrade Cathay at range, and also just keep them from compromising your missile line if you build something like this. But maybe you can cut that greatsword and just get another Empire Knight. This is more along the lines of what I would do to adjust that build without totally changing the identity of it. Alright, we should be getting into top 4. In fact, I think it might be going on right now. Oh, I think we actually timed it up perfectly. Oh, hell yeah. Here are the finalists. I think they are playing. No, they're not. Is it not announced yet? Give me a sec, guys. Let me figure this out. It's not showing in the final stage. Group stage with the standings. Okay, so it's going to be Beluga, Wreck, Exul, and Seth. Let's go, Seth. Hell yeah. Yeah, more cheap melee to protect range, other cheap units to cap. If you're going very missile heavy, you just want to stay back with all of your artillery and your missiles and just shoot your opponent off the field and then triple cap. Yeah, air combat needs a little bit of a fix. It's very janky still. Knights of the Black Rose are a really good unit, but I think they're overcosted for what they do against Cathay, because they're strong and they can clear out Jade Warriors, but they cost, 1,250 gold. It's getting a little bit up there, and I think you actually, as the Empire, can very feasibly outshoot Cathay comfortably with your artillery and everything. Hold on. Trying to get top 4 wrangled up. Okay, sweet. Beluga's gonna hook us up with the lobby code and a spec slot. So he didn't miss out on the top 4, which is amazing news. Let's go jump into it. We'll get the live casts rolling. Here's the... okay, also, by the way, Reaper, you weren't doing all that badly, okay? Like, that was just very clearly, like, jitters, new to multiplayer, not really sure how to build the armies, not 100% sure how to, like, synergize your units together. It'll come with time. You'll be fine. There was nothing too terribly egregious about any of the mistakes you made. How should Norska play Empire? 2 weeks in a row, I get Empire 5th round and lose for top 4. Empire is just really tricky, man. Like, good Empire players are stinkers, they will just dominate you with good missile play and kite. And Norska can, close the gap on their opponent pretty quickly, but the Empire does have good enough tools to be able to protect their shooting, even if you are able to force melee fights, because Empire Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun, they do hammer against Skinnles pretty hard. And Fimir are really good. It's just surviving focus fire. But if an Empire player is smart, they're never going to engage Fimir with their knights. They'll just run you around in circles the entire game and laugh at you as you just waddle in a circle getting shot to death. And it'll be slow going for them, but they'll eventually win that trade. For Norska, I don't really know what I would I would recommend going with probably a couple of Marauder champions backed up by some chariots, like one Ice Wolf chariot to start, maybe another one in reserve. Use your Norskan Ice Wolves and Skin Wolves not to try and actually engage the enemy cavalry, but to keep the enemy cavalry off of your melee infantry while they win in the front line. Oh my god, a Khorne mirror match? Let's freaking go. For those of you who don't like mirror matches, I'm so sorry. For those of you who don't like mirror matches, you might be bored by this, but I love some of the mirror matches, man, and Khorne is a really exciting one. Norska just needs to win the infantry trades, and they need to avoid as much damage from missiles as possible. When you get an opportunity to kill an Empire unit, you should take it. Just don't be drawn into any concaves. The Empire's very good at trapping mobility and then shooting it to death. As long as you can avoid that against the Empire, Norska should be able to win that matchup. And that's a matchup where I think the Fimir caster is going to be really good, because you bring the Melkoths and you use that against their skirmish cav as well as the heavy knights. You should be able to leech them down without over-investing yourself into anything counterable. The Skyjunk hit something. The Skyjunk hit something literally like twice in that last game we watched. Oh my god. One day, CA will figure out a way to make Cathay decent in domination mode. I still think they should rework Harmony so that the way it works is that you get the buffs from Harmony depending on how equal the number of yin and yang units are. Just by them being on the battlefield. Not how close they are together, because that's how it works currently, and I think it's just a pretty poor implementation of it. I think that if you've got 8 Yang units and 8 Yin units on the battlefield, then you should have max Harmony. Because they're on the same battlefield, theoretically supporting one another. I think it would buff Cathay pretty dramatically without over-tuning them, because their units are not that good individually, even with Harmony up. That's the big problem with Cathay, is that their big selling point, like centerpiece mechanic, is just not that good. It's acceptable. They need like extra stuff on top of it all to really get something done with Harmony. Like, they need Harmony amplification with their lords, or they need the extra buffs from the Zhonggu War Drums. Harmony by itself doesn't do them that many favors. Why can I not ready up? I think Beluga needs to get rid of all those extra spec slots. Luca also sent me a replay and promised that it was a good game. I believe it. I mean, all of the games have been fairly close, or at the very least had something really different and like unique on the field. It's been a really great tournament, guys. I really appreciate y'all all showing up and showing out for it. Any tips for greenskins? That's very broad. Greenskins, I mean, generally speaking, if you literally just want me to tell you what, like, a good, solid core for their army is a cheap lord, preferably the Night Goblin War Boss of the Rampages on the Squig, a caster who can just pop spells on stuff. You want to bring, like, 2 pump wagons, 3 to 4 boar boys of both variants, like, get 3 boar boy biggins, because they're always strong. Maybe, like, 1 or 2 of the standard orc boar boys. Tons of bodies, preferably orc boys. I don't really love goblins, but goblins can help charge up quicker. You just want to overwhelm your opponent with numbers. And then hammer home with that heavy cavalry, and your bow support can also chip away pretty effectively. So, we're kicking it off here. Dwarfs into Dark Elves, got slammed by Dark Elves. We'll get into all that after we cast this. I'll try and keep them all in mind. Remind me after we get through the finals, and we can go through those one by one. And I can give y'all some, like, general advice for builds and how to, like, micro your units around at that point. Very interesting armies for the mirror match. For me personally, I love Scarbrand for the mirror match. I think it's, like, one of his few good matchups. Combo him with the Marauder Horseman, and you'll dominate your opponent usually. And I love having 3 horsemen in the starting army.
Skulls and blood! Blood and skulls!
Yeah, Skulltaker is, he's getting pretty amped up, as you can hear, you know. He's, got that NASCAR level of excitement going for him, I guess. He's about as jazzed as it gets here. Hellforged Bellowers on one side, it is going to farm a crapload of value off of the Slaughter Guard if Seth isn't careful. I would keep the Slaughter Guard back behind this hill until you can either kill the Hellforged Bellowers or get it to use most of its ammo and then bring your stuff forward. This is also a little sketchy out here. You've got some Furies coming in. You're doing a good job of keeping your opponent off of the caps. You've taken a lot of damage on your horsemen, as compared to Belugas, which are very healthy. Now you get actually charged down by the Chaos Warhounds of Khorne. Now, Warhounds are not great, but the Khorne Warhounds, above all others, are at least able to get some damage done. They get a pretty good... I mean, they get the charge off, which is the most important thing. If Seth had countercharged those Warhounds, though, the Horsemen would have won very comfortably. I mean, they absolutely slaughter Hounds on the charge. But the Hounds do get the charge off, and they actually get the good value trade there. Still haven't paid for themselves, though. Furies landing on both of these Khorne throwing axes out here is not a great charge for the Furies. They're surrounded, and they're fighting a unit that's anti-infantry with good weapon strength. You can see how quickly they get shredded here. Not value trading well at all in the early game. The skirmish fights for Seth going very poorly right now. Marauders in the front line taking a bunch of damage. Bloodwake Berserkers for Seth also isolated by multiple units. Like, they're fighting the Bloodwake Berserkers for Beluga here, who's got the Marauders in a much better position, and Skulltaker's been buffing all of this stuff up for Beluga. And look at the rear charge from the Furies. Beautiful execution on that dive, man. Get up over the top and then dive in onto the rear. That's how you kill units in the front line with Furies. Furies are great at helping you peel through front line fights. Actually very good at rear charging like that. Slaughter Guard taking a bunch of damage, and the Exalted Bloodthirster finally landing in here. But not able to save the Bloodwake Berserkers, who just got absolutely manhandled. But look at that damage on the Furies. The Exalted Bloodthirster's collision attacks actually doing a lot of work here, and now pushing Skulltaker into the Slaughter Guard even. Oh my god, look at the damage racking up on him as he's taking attacks from the Slaughter Guard here. Bloodwake Berserkers in position, though, to help out. This one has actually value traded fairly effectively up to this point. They've gotten 1,500 value. Now they're fighting the Slaughter Guard. Two incredibly powerful units going toe-to-toe here. Not something you see every day for sure. Skulltaker trying to get away right now. It does not want to be scrapping against the Exalted Bloodthirster. Very good bait up into the Marauders, though. The buffering for the infantry is going to swing this around for Skulltaker. Because the Exalted Bloodthirster is going to be attacking the Marauders a whole bunch, while Skulltaker's only focusing his damage in on the Bloodthirster. He's getting healing all the while. Bloodthirster getting some attacks, but getting shot by the throwing axes as well. Nasty stuff, man. This is why the mobility fights are so important. Beluga just has the advantage of Marauder Horsemen in this matchup. Marauder Horsemen of Khorne are absolutely devastating if they do not get shot down by longer range missiles. Honestly, in this matchup, the entire matchup revolves around your throwing axes. Like, just straight up. They are your best unit for killing literally everything your opponent has. Throwing axes kill the Bloodwake Berserkers, they kill the Slaughter Guard, they kill Scarbrand, they kill Bloodthirsters, they kill Skulltaker, they kill everything except Valkia. And stuff like overwhelming numbers of Furies and Fleshhounds. And they can still do pretty well into Fleshhounds if you get surrounds on the Fleshies. I think Beluga is just maybe a little bit more, like, geared up and understanding of, like, the faction as a whole, and that's probably making the biggest difference here. Chaos Warhounds into Fleshhounds, not a really good fight for the Warhounds. The Fleshhounds are a little beat up over here, though. If the Exalted Bloodthirster dies, it's also going to be a big loss of leadership. Oh, and look at the rear charge here. That's beautiful, man. Good attack onto the rear of the Fleshhounds. They did turn around just in time. They got a little bit of extra damage in, but they are getting collapsed on from the other side by the Hounds here. Fleshies do just about pay for themselves. Deathbringer being popped by the Exalted Bloodthirster, but being attacked by Furies, and he's so beat up, he's not going to be able to survive here. And the Axes... Oh, they've just been following him the whole game. After the throwing axes went down for Seth, Beluga just used those throwing axes to get in and just hound out that very expensive Bloodthirster. I don't hate Exalted Bloodthirsters. I think they're acceptable units. They can very much value trade. But they're very weak to ranged pressure. And the throwing axes are just like the perfectly created counter to a big flying monster like this. Khorne throwing axes, two of them can easily kill any flying hero in the game. You just keep them like right under the dragon or Bloodthirster, and they'll just munch through their HP. It is so funny to watch too. People are not usually ready and expecting it. And here's the nice thing about the Khorne throwing axes. If those big dragons land on top of the Khorne throwing axes, they've got good enough stats and temporarily have ITP with Frenzy, so they don't just immediately terror out like a lot of other Marauder Horsemen do. So like one throwing axe can occupy the attention of the dragon character, while the other throwing axes just focus fire while the dragon or the big monster is on the ground, and they just munch on them. It's great. Fleshhounds. This might be a few too many for this matchup, in my opinion. It was pretty, like, well-suited for what Seth had out early. Yeah, that's just really unfortunate. It's a little bit of a, it's a little bit of a build gap, right? Like, the Hellforge Bellowers can easily kill the Bloodwake Berserkers and the Slaughter Guard at range. And there's not really anything here to kill the Hellforge Bellowers from Seth. Like, there's no Scarbrand to try and rampage it. The throwing axes, they were kind of getting out-traded by Belugas on the other side. There's not a whole lot of mobility here. I prefer to have a Minotaur out as early as possible. just in case there's a Hellforged Bellowers, because you just can't let this thing ride around and blow your whole army up. It's very powerful. Even after the nerfs, it's still a pretty incredible unit. And that's a mirror match for Khorne in a nutshell, man. It goes by about as quick as it is. Literally, that was a 5-minute game, I think. And Beluga played that pretty expertly, so... Seth's gonna have to go back to the drawing board on it next time. Didn't do good, got beaten up by Khorne twice. It happens. Khorne is a really tough matchup for the Greenskins, because Khorne just loves fighting in melee. And they've got a lot of tools nowadays that can beat up on the Greenskins' best stuff. Going wide against Khorne is honestly a big mistake, because you're just feeding them army abilities at that point. Numbers don't always beat the Blood God. If you're debuffing all of their units and making sure that you're denying them early engagements, and you're value trading and weakening them early on, then you can take head-up fights with them in the late game, as your units are a little bit healthier and maybe have a little bit more vigor. And you still have a little magic to debuff their stuff in melee. If you just send like waves and waves of like orc boys and goblins in against Khorne units, though, you're going to feed them a shit ton of army abilities. They're going to use those army abilities to annihilate pockets of resistance, and they're just going to very cost-efficiently out-trade you. It's not easy. You've got to play a kite game against Khorne. Super confusing match. That's fair. Banner looking... the banners were a little bit distinct, thankfully. There's a lot worse banners they could have chosen for that game. Like, imagine that Khorne mirror match, and there's somebody who selected the Bloody Sword, and the other person selected the Blood Keepers. These banners and the color schemes look the exact same. Or even worse, Exiles of Khorne versus the Bloody Sword. How the hell would you ever tell them apart? You know? It would be nice if they had a way to, like, make it a little bit easier to tell factions apart in the mirrors. But, as it stands, it's okay. We do have a little bit of time before finals. I mean, that game we watched, I mean, literally took 5 minutes, if even. So I imagine the other side of bracket might be lagging behind a bit. But we'll sit here for a little bit, and I'll try and answer general questions for people in regards to what matchups they might be struggling in and needing a little bit of assistance for. We did have somebody asking about Dark Elves versus the Dowie. I'll talk about that for a little bit. And then I'll talk about Skaven Wood Elves. Let's get into the skirmish versus AI. And let me let people know.